So, congratulations on your new show. Big deal, huh?
That's why shows like yours are so important.
We have an independent county-elected sheriff that's the head of law enforcement in Jacksonville/Duval County. And I know how to work toward making this city safe.
We can't be shy about speaking on things such as faith and politics. We have to remember, in a free society, the public square belongs to all of us.
I'm not interested in North Florida looking like Orlando or Miami. I love where we live, but I think that good jobs means that people that live in this district can stay in this district.
Fishing and hunting is funding a large part of your conservation projects in Florida, and we want to make sure that those are forever preserved.
And the problem with this industry at this point is that they actually target our youth. You can see it in their marketing strategies, where it's bright colors, fun names.
And that's going to be endlessly litigated.
Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Hey, it's Drew Steele with an offer that can help steer your retirement in the right direction. Look, we're going to navigate the turbulent waters of 24 with this financial uncertainties and shifting tides. Having expert guidance is more crucial than ever, and that's where my good friend Alfie Townsend comes in. As Southwest Florida's certified financial planner professional, Alfie brings expert knowledge and insight. His latest book, Making Waves in Retirement, isn't just a guide. It's your navigational compass for mastering the financial seas. With decades of experience, Alfie has crafted a powerful roadmap to help you chart your course and make impactful waves in your retirement. Look, for a limited time, you can claim your free copy of this valuable guide. That's right, no cost. This book is more than just pages. It's your blueprint for a prosperous and fulfilling retirement. Don't let this opportunity drift by. Text book to 239-747-1080. That's book to 239-747-1080. Look, secure your free copy today. Let's make 24 the year you confidently navigate towards a brighter financial future. Text book to 239-747-1080.
I've been dipping snuff for well over 30 years. You know, I could wake up in the morning and have a weird lump in my gums. Guess it's like playing Russian roulette, really. I would love grandchildren. And if by quitting it extends my life some, I would gladly lay it down.
Visit tobaccofreeflorida.com to find free resources to help you quit your way.
Today, push harder, push forward, push vigorously.
There are things that I am hiding from people that I'm trying to inspire.
You can do whatever you set your mind to.
I feel like a hypocrite a lot of the times.
Don't give up on yourself ever.
Smoking, I hide it because I'm ashamed of it. I want to get out of the shadow. I want to show people there is light away from the darkness. I am going to quit.
Visit tobaccofreeflorida.com to find free resources to help you quit your way.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today. We're with Liam after his 4th military move, when being new is starting to get old. We're with Tara during the holidays, when she misses home the most. We're with all service members and their families who need connection, comfort, and a home away from home. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
It's always a good day when you hear from TJ Meister from the Floor Meisters in Naples, 6281 Naples Boulevard, 239-596-4964. All right, let's see what's going on with TJ today. How are you, TJ?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Drew. It's good to hear you on the radio.
Thanks, TJ. Appreciate it. All right, Floor Meisters, what do we got going on?
Well, we're just keeping up with the demand for Core-Tec. Just had to order a truck and bring it in from the West Coast of the United States to keep up with all the needs and wants of the people of Southwest Florida. Somebody doesn't have it, give me a call. I probably do.
Why do people love Core-Tec so much?
Well, it's waterproof, kid-proof, pet-proof. So if you got a pool, no problem. If you got a dog, no problem. If you got a husband that spills, no problem.
You got to call the Floor Meisters in Naples. What do you need? Tile, carpet, Core-Tec, 6281 Naples Boulevard in Naples, 596-4964. Give them a call, 596-4964 for the Floor Meisters.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this.
Mom, we are so high up.
Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this. Just breathe." Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Thank you for waking us all up out here, for all you do. And
thank you for giving us a voice.
For being out there helping keep the constitutional republic. I want to thank you for
your support for veterans in the military.
Educating us.
Standing up for conservatism.
Giving us the truth.
Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Hey there, everybody. There's a little switch on the side of the microphone. It might help if I actually turned it on. I'm Andrew Langer in for Drew Steele. Hey, you always got to go down this road of getting the technical glitches worked out before you start talking. Yes, so glad I could join you for my second day. One would think I would have learned from my mistakes from yesterday. Drew is, of course, taking a much-needed respite, well-deserved respite. He will be back tomorrow, I believe. I'm in the studio with Nina and Derek, and we've got Eric in the newsroom pulling all kinds of audio, keeping us apprised of what is going on in the world. It is a jam-packed show, a king-size show, an oversized show today. We've got Faith Burns from Americans for Prosperity joining us in just a couple of minutes. Julie Gunlock from the Independent Women's Forum joining us as well. Adam Lovinger, who's an author. We discussed him yesterday. He's written a book called The Insider Threat. We've got Mike O'Neill from Landmark Legal Foundation and my good buddy Jerry Rogers from Real Clear Policy. He and I do a podcast together called Andrew and Jerry Save the World, where I do learn how to turn my microphone on and off. So anyway, as I said, lots to cover. Obviously, we're going to talk today about Laken Riley and the Laken Riley legislation. We're going to talk about Mark Zuckerberg saying that Facebook's not going to censor people anymore. Sure, I believe you. But let's start with the biggest bit of news that's out there right now. President Trump held a press conference today at Mar-a-Lago, and I do love Trump's press conferences because, you know, he is unafraid, right? This was the problem. One of the problems with Madame Vice President Kamala Harris on the campaign trail. She didn't like talking to the press. You know, she was very afeared that people were going to discover that she was far further to the left than she was running on, that she had this record of the things that she had said in the past, and she didn't want to have to account for those things. Donald Trump, not so much so. And yes, we've been talking about Doge, and we've been talking about the offshore drilling ban. That's what we're going to talk about with Faith Burns. But and we've been talking about Greenland and what we might do with Greenland. Don Jr. on the ground in Greenland. We're going to get to that in a moment. But first, Donald Trump had this to say. There's a major bit of geographical nomenclature news happening. Here's what Donald Trump said.
$50 to $60 trillion worth of assets. We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
And why not?
It's appropriate.
And why not? I mean, you know, it's one of those things where I mean, obviously what he's talking about is changing it sort of on official documentation. But here's what I come back to. during the Biden administration, and to some extent during the Obama administration, there was a huge push to rename all kinds of things, especially military bases. You know, where I am in Virginia, where I broadcast from in Virginia, a number of the bases here. One that I remember from when I was a Boy Scout back in the 80s, the Boy Scout jamborees were usually held at Fort A.P. Hill in Virginia. Fort A.P. Hill is renamed. Fort Lee is renamed. Other forts out there have been renamed. Fort Bragg in North Carolina, the famed Fort Bragg in North Carolina. I still call it Fort Bragg. Now it's known as Fort Liberty. So you know something? Why not? Why not, rename the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America for the purposes of the United States? Now, I don't know if we've gotten any reaction. I know Nina was going to be looking up to find some reaction for me, because you could bet. I mean, it's funny. Matt Welch, my friend Matt Welch, who is a writer for Reason Magazine. I think he's one of the editors at large of Reason Magazine. Was talking about his reaction was something about Wacky Manifest Destiny. He, unlike Nick Gillespie, has been a little bit more of a skeptic. Not that Nick Gillespie hasn't been a skeptic, but and what Matt is referring to is also Donald Trump wanting to talk about. I'm not sure you could call it annexing Greenland, but having more of an official relationship, essentially acquiring Greenland for the United States. Donald Trump also had some stuff to say about that today at his press conference.
You are not going to use military or economic coercion?
Actually, let me set this up a little more, because one of the things that Donald Trump is talking about is the raw deal that the United States is getting when it comes to the Panama Canal. And you will remember that President Carter negotiated a deal in which the United States turned over governance and management of the Panama Canal and the Panama Canal Zone to Panama Canal Zone. It made it sound like I was calling it the Panama Calzone, which I didn't mean to do. The Panama Canal Zone to Panama, and essentially, from what we're now made to understand, essentially the canal and canal zone is being run by the Chinese. And that's a bad idea. I'll explain that a little bit more. If I'd been thinking about it, I would have gotten a guy named George Landreth on. George runs an organization called Frontiers of Freedom. And George has a really great map that he brings out to presentations, talking about especially something called the Jones Act, which has to do with carriage rules and flagging rules of ships in the United States. I won't go into the details there. But as part of his presentation on the Jones Act, George Landreth puts out a global map in which he underscores all of the points, the choke points on the open seas that the Chinese have control over. It's a very dangerous place to be. So, with that in mind, Donald Trump was asked about how he would deal with Greenland and how he would deal with the Panama Canal, and this is what he had to say.
No. And can you tell us a little bit about what your plan is? Are you going to negotiate a new treaty? Are you going to ask the Canadians to hold a vote? What is the strategy?
Yeah, I can't assure you, you're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this, we need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something.
The question is, would you commit to not using economic or military coercion, which are two very different things? And the president's saying, no, I'm not going to commit to that. I don't know what the course of action is going to be. And good for him in terms of not being baited in that regard. Now, I know that Faith Burns is on the line. Before we bring Faith on, though, I want to play this, because yesterday morning we woke up to the news that the current president, we still have one of those, Joe Biden, created an executive order in which he essentially banned all offshore drilling. And I made the statement yesterday because normally with executive orders, they can just be undone by the successive president. Apparently, it's not that simple in this case, as we talked about with Nan Hayworth and some others. We're going to get more into that, I think, later on as well. We're going to talk about this with Faith Burns. But here's what the president had to say about this.
People can say we manufacture, we don't manufacture. The thing we have oil and gas more than anybody in the world. We're going to have more of it, too. But they took away 625 million acres of offshore drilling. Nobody else does that. And they think they have it, but we'll put it back. I'm going to put it back on day one. I'm going to have it revoked on day one. We'll go immediately if we need to. I don't think we should have to go to the courts, but if we do have to go to the courts, you know, they try to be sneaky. They go in and they sign. Remember, this is a man that said he wants the transition to be smooth. Well, you don't do the kind of things. You don't have a judge working real hard to try and embarrass you. Because I did nothing wrong. By the way, I did nothing, absolutely nothing wrong.
All right. He goes, you know, talking about George Marchand and what's going on there and the sentencing that's happening on Friday. But it's a complicated situation, and this is exactly what the Biden administration wants. They want to hamstring this president and his options. Joining us right now to talk about this is Faith Burns. She is an energy policy fellow with Americans for Prosperity. And Faith, listen, so glad I could talk to you. You and I haven't met. I'm a huge fan of AFP. But let's talk about this because I'm getting lots of different answers when I ask the question, can this be undone? When I reached out to somebody in the oil and gas industry yesterday, this person said, well, no, we think it can be done simply, but now they're not so sure. What's going on with this ban, and why isn't it as simple as other executive orders?
Well, it's not as simple because apparently the law under which President Biden signed this into effect is the Outer Continental Shelf Act. And apparently that statute does not contain a provision that would allow a subsequent president from undoing a withdrawal of land that a previous president has done. So that's my understanding. And because of that it's not as simple as a lot of other executive orders are, which can generally be undone by the next president that comes in. Now, that said, perhaps Congress can amend the statute, expect litigation as a result of anything trying to undo this thing, but I assume and presume that there are a number of legal minds working on how to rectify this matter.
You know, it seems insane to me that one president unilaterally can hamstring a successive president like this. I mean, I can't think of anything else under the constitutional provisions which would allow one president to listen, short of Armageddon, and obviously we don't want to call it that. I'm going to knock wood in my studio here. But short of that, right? I mean, everything else, there's a way to go down this road. Even as we talked about yesterday with David Safavian, my colleague at CPAC, you know, the issues with the CFPB, eventually they were reined in. I mean, that was set up as something to act outside of this. But let's talk about the policy implications. Let's talk about what it means for America's working families. I know you've run the numbers on this. I've run the numbers in terms of past Biden administration dealings with offshore drilling. This seriously hits American working families in the pocketbook, doesn't it?
Oh, completely. And what it does is it sends a clear message that the Biden administration doesn't care what it does to keep energy prices high. Because if you take off and remove from the potential for production of a large area, which this is, then that means no energy exploration, no drilling, no production. And that means your supply is going to be limited. And it comes back to the normal supply and demand laws. So right. Yes, if this land is not subject to drilling, then it's going to continue to wreak havoc on our economy, because energy issues are the foundation of our economy. And if we don't get energy prices under control, the rest of our economy is not going to be under control.
Well, here's the thing that gets me. We had Brandon Weichert on yesterday as well. He's a foreign policy analyst. And one of the things he and I talked about was the issue of the war in Ukraine. And if there's anything that could continue to prolong this war in Central Europe, it's propping up the Russian oil economy, right? That's the only way that they can fund their machine. How does this impact those markets, the global market? What are your thoughts here?
Well, it may not have an impact tomorrow, but down the
Yeah.
road it very well could. And
Sure.
a lot of our adversaries are paying attention to this because they watch the news as well. And we have the
Right.
internet where news travels across the globe. So they're seeing this. And I would say a lot of them are salivating at the opportunity that we won't be able to drill in these areas.
So, Faith, what are you guys at AFP doing about this? You're an activist organization. You were one of the two, or I would say one of the four major organizations involved in the Tea Party movement back in the 2010s, late 2000s and 2010s. What's AFP? You guys are an activist organization. What are you guys doing?
Well, not just with this particular matter, but with other recent regulations that the Biden administration has put out. We're actually compiling list of what we think are really bad regulations, and I assure you there are a lot of them. And new Congress has been sworn in, and there's an act called the Congressional Review Act, which allows a new Congress to take a look back to certain final regulations that a previous administration has put into place, and they can pass a joint resolution of disapproval, send it to the president signs it, then that regulation goes away. So we're looking at a number of regulations that are potentially subject to a Congressional Review Act. And we're also looking at thinking ahead and down the road as to whatever may happen, not just with this particular matter, but with the other regulations. If there are any legal challenges, then we try to stay abreast and apprised of what could happen.
Yeah, we're doing something similar. I in my other job, I run the Center for Regulatory Freedom over at CPAC, and we've been putting together our list as well, and also looking at what to do in the wake of the Loper Bright decision. And let me actually ask you this: speaking of sort of crazy regulations and things that have happened, I'm sure you've got your 2 cents on the natural gas heater ban. I'll play Donald Trump's comments on this in a second, but this was the precursor to this drilling ban. I guess maybe it's a good thing. Maybe we have to ban natural gas drilling on the outer continental shelf because we won't need to use it for water heaters anymore, will we?
No. Well, actually, that final regulation came out the day after Christmas, I believe. Yeah. As a lot of folks did, I took some time off for Christmas and for the holidays, and I came in and checked the Federal Register because the day after Christmas is not a federal holiday. And sure enough, the Federal Register was in publication, and that day it was the water heater ban. Yes.
Yeah, but talk about the impact of that. One of the things that I've been talking about is, it's not just the water heaters, it's a whole host of other appliances. The impact that it has there on things like emergency preparedness, right? If you no longer have the need for natural gas lines going into houses for stoves and water heaters, you're no longer going to have natural gas lines for things like generators in times of emergency. Hugely important to the listeners to Florida's Voice. I mean, this, again, it creates a crisis of unintended consequences down the road, doesn't it?
Of course it does. And, it's almost crazy to think that governments would ban folks using natural gas. I mean, it doesn't make any sense on a practical common sense level. So as is with a lot of the bans that this administration has put into place, and it does have impacts on us because if you can't use natural gas, then they want us to use electricity. Well, some electricity is actually powered by natural gas. So if you're limiting natural gas, then that means that the price of fuel that the electric utilities have to use to generate power is going to go up. And as we all know, electric prices have been going up exponentially across the country.
Right. It's this idea, if they want everybody to have electric cars, we need to be producing between 3 and 5 times as much electricity, and we ain't going to get there with solar and wind, are we, Faith?
No, we are not, because while solar and wind is very nice, it can produce energy, yes, but it is not as reliable as good old baseload power with nuclear, with coal, and with natural gas. That's a fact.
Right. Without a doubt. And the wonderful thing about the internal combustion engine is that it is and I don't mean this as in dumb as in stupid or bad. I mean, it's dumb technology in that at the end of the day, it's very simple. right? You know, what we're now learning with this storm that has hit the Northeast and other crises that have hit, natural disasters that have hit around the country, when you don't have access to electricity and you don't have access to the infrastructure to service these electric vehicles, you know, people who have them are out of luck. Faith, how do folks find out more about the good work that you're doing and the good work that Americans for Prosperity is doing?
Or they can go to our website, which is afp.org, and see all about not only the energy issues, but the other issues that we're working on as well. Immigration, housing, taxation. There are a number of things that we work on, and actually we're there. And our offices are here in Northern Virginia and Arlington, and we have chapters in 38 states, I believe, and a presence in all states. So we're a grassroots organization. We're out there, and we're fighting and working on behalf of the American people every day.
Well, Faith, I'm going to be reaching out to you to trade regulatory stories about what you're putting on your list and what we're putting on our list. Best of luck to you and Happy New Year.
Deal. Thank you.
Take care. That was Faith Burns. She's the Energy Policy Fellow, or an Energy Policy Fellow with Americans for Prosperity, AFP. HQ.org is how you find them. So let's listen, before we take a break for the news, let's hear what the president had to say about President-elect, the once and future president, whatever. Let's see what he had to say about the water heater ban.
And we don't have enough electricity, and then we have AI where we need more, and he wants everybody to have an electric heater instead of a gas heater. Gas heater is much less expensive. The heat is much better. It's a much better heat. As the expression goes, you don't itch. Does anybody have a heater where you go and you're scratching? And that's what they want you to have. They don't want you to have gas where you don't have the problems of the electric. And the source is plentiful. They're much cheaper to operate. They're much better. They work much.
Let me explain that a little bit, by the way. You know, one of the things that I deal with in my daily job as director of the Center for Regulatory Freedom is the issue of unintended consequences of regulation. And as we have made HVAC appliances more hyper efficient, right, as we have changed the systems, you know, including, you know, refrigerators and things like that. Well, obviously, when you make refrigerators more environmentally friendly, I'm using air quotes for those of you who are listening instead of watching, you know, you make those systems more complicated and they're going to break down more, which creates more waste. When you create hyper efficient, and that's in terms of the recirculation of these HVAC systems, because they're less effective at engaging in the mechanics of heating or cooling an environment. So you have to make them very efficient in order to do that. Well, once you get more dust and dander and broken down insect shells, that has huge impacts on people out there. It just does. And so you can chart the relationship between incidences of childhood asthma and the creation and the deployment of these hyper efficient, super efficient HVAC systems, especially in the inner cities, in these inner city apartment buildings. So, you know, these things always have consequences. I think I said this yesterday. The most well-intentioned policies eventually bump up against very real realities, or as my father says it to me, Andrew, there are many roads to utopia. However, all must traverse the surface of the earth. Julie Gutlock in a moment. I'm Andrew Langer. This is Drew Steele on Florida's Voice.
You're listening to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. Being a veteran, it's interwoven into your DNA. It is really the absence of the connection and the purpose that can really drive a lot of veterans to some negative thoughts. For those who are in a suicidal crisis, the window of time to save somebody's life is very short. Our duty is to protect ourselves and protect our families. And one way you can do that is store your weapons safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Hey, it's Drew Steele, and you probably know this. I've had a music career, an EMI published songwriter in the past. I've had a top 20 Billboard hit and movie soundtracks. But I got my start right here in Southwest Florida at Soundcheck Studios with Jim Becker. I worked with Jim when he was producing big names like Castrol and Beck's Beer and other commercial clients from ABC, NBC, CBS. He's done it all. It doesn't make a difference what your musical style is. If you're talking about recording for bands or producing music, jingles, he does it all at Soundcheck Studios. Recently, he worked with RCA artist Doja Cat and also a Sony artist Flipped Arrow. A lot of great artists have made their way through Soundcheck Studios. So if you want to make your brand memorable with a jingle or maybe a commercial you want to cut, or maybe it's a band, give Soundcheck Studios a call today. 239-340-0515. That's 239-340-0515 for Soundcheck Studios.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this.
Mom, we are so high up.
Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
Hey, you got this. Just breathe. Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Radical anti-hunting forces are working to ban fishing and hunting across the country. These extreme attacks on our heritage must be met. Thankfully, the International Order of T. Roosevelt is fighting back as the nation's premier organization defending our rights to fish and hunt. This April, you can step into the arena with us and join our fight in Naples, Florida. Join us at the historic Ritz-Carlton Tiburon and hear from world-class speakers including Tucker Carlson. The annual event is the best place for conservationists, anglers, hunters, and all those who want to protect the outdoors to come together, build strategies to protect our rights, and expand opportunities in the future for generations to come. Visit IOTR.org to learn more about our organization and to sign up to see Tucker in April. Visit IOTR.org to learn more about our organization and to sign up to see Tucker in April. You don't want to miss this event.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. And in our family, we're used to getting involved, and I encourage you to do the same, especially when it comes to caring for your loved ones. When I think about Alzheimer's and the impact it had on my family, I recognize that losing a race isn't such a bad day after all. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
To some, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much, but that's not true. They're testing out vowels and consonants and trying different sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on meaning, especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Learn more at autismspeaks.org.
Hey, it's Drew Steele with a game-changing offer for those ready to master their retirement journey. Look, we're going to navigate unpredictable waters in 24, an election year marked by financial uncertainty. It's crucial. You've got to have expert guidance. That's where my good friend Alfie Townsend comes in. The Southwest Florida certified financial planner professional, Alfie brings unparalleled experience and insight to the table. His latest book, Making Waves in Retirement, it's not just a guide. It's your strategic compass for navigating the financial seas with confidence. Look, with decades of experience, Alfie has created a powerful roadmap. It'll help you chart your course and make meaningful waves in your retirement. And for a limited time, you can get your hands on this book free. That's right, no cost. The book is more than just a collection of stories. It's a blueprint for achieving a prosperous and fulfilling retirement. So don't miss out. Text book to 239-747-1080 right now. It's book to 239-747-1080 and claim your free copy today. Let's make 24 the year you confidently steer towards a brighter financial future. Text book to 239-747-1080.
Now, back to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
See, I remembered to turn my microphone back on. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew Langer, in for Drew today. Drew's taking a second day off. I think he's back tomorrow. I'm in studio with Derek, in studio with Nina. We got Eric checking out the news. Eric, who I discovered we share a Maryland pedigree with, which is quite exciting. I got to chat with him about that. Going to be joined in a moment by Julie Gunlock with the Independent Women's Forum, Independent Women's Network. But in the meantime, we're talking about this press conference that Donald Trump had earlier today. And he had a brilliant bit of bobbing and weaving. This is what Eric had to say about it. President Trump had a brilliant move here. Let's hear what the president had to say about the political landscape.
Press made such a big deal out of him, but we did nothing wrong. We did nothing wrong on anything. And the people saw that. You know, when they vote when a Republican, it's not easy for a Republican. When the Republican wins the popular vote by millions and wins all 7 of the swing states, people said, well, he could win 4. We won all 7, and we won them by a lot. That tells you we won. That tells, and they've been watching this injustice. I call it the Injustice Department. What they've done is so bad. The whole world has watched that. And it took work, but it got me a lot of votes because when explained, I mean, we have a judge in New York who's a very crooked judge. I'm under a gag order. I can't.
You know, it's funny. I had this conversation on a show I did out of Baltimore a couple of weeks ago, and you know, and I've been saying this for months that all the left, if the left really didn't want Donald Trump to run for president, then all they had to do was ignore him, right? That's all they would have had to do. Once he sort of lost in 2020. If they'd ignored him, he would have just gone away. But no, they wanted Donald Trump to be the Republican nominee because they felt that Donald Trump was the weakest candidate that they could run against out of the field of candidates. And listen, I got to tell you, I felt at times that Donald Trump was a weak candidate compared to others. Again, what do I know? I've given up a long time, you know, on making political prognostications. But they wanted Donald Trump. They felt Donald Trump was the weakest candidate. So they, I will say this, engineered it so that Donald Trump was absolutely going to run and Donald Trump was going to get his backup and he was absolutely going to get the nomination. What they didn't count on was that Joe Biden was going to completely implode, that the American people were going to see him completely implode, and that they would put up this incompetent candidate who couldn't run away from her record, along with this boob as her running mate, who was like the embodiment of Fozzie Bear meeting, I don't know, I would say Barney Fife. You know, it was this recipe for disaster. You know, somebody joining me right now, someone I love to talk to about these things. Her name is Julie Gunlock. She works for the Independent Women's Forum or the Independent Women's Network. She also does radio up in Washington, D.C. on O'Connor and Company on WMAL. I mean, Julie, am I right? I mean, they wanted Donald Trump to run against Joe Biden and then Kamala Harris.
Yeah, but I have to get back to, who did you say it was a combination of Barney
Fife from Andy of Mayberry and Fozzie Bear.
I have never heard a better description of
Thank you.
Waltz. That was perfect. That was perfect. Yes, of course they wanted him to win. They wanted him to run because they thought simultaneously they could put him in jail.
Yes.
And So they wanted him to be the nominee, and then they wanted to disrupt it, again with lawfare. It was despicable what they did, and of course, at the root of this is a hatred of the American public, a belief that the American public is stupid, the belief that the American public would buy everything they were saying about him being a fascist, a Nazi, and the end of democracy. And they also thought that the American public wouldn't see it for what it was, which was lawfare. So, I mean, ultimately it backfired on them. But you're absolutely right that they were gunning for this guy from the beginning.
So let's talk about the kitchen table issues, the really important issues that affect all of us. We just had on Faith Burns from AFP to talk about the drilling ban yesterday, which, as we now understand, is not as simple as other executive orders. But nevertheless, they are doing this. They are doing this to foment as much chaos as possible in what was going to be and what will be a very different transition than it was between 2016 and 2017. But the American family gets ground under in the wake of this, don't they, Julie Gunlock?
Oh, they do. I mean, everything from this drilling ban to the release of these 11 prisoners at Guantanamo Bay, the sort of last minute Green New Deal restrictions on gas stoves, making them more expensive. They really are, you know, sort of, they are the British come to set the White House on fire.
Wow.
Before they leave, because, and again, I don't think this is Biden. I truly don't. I think he's so far gone. I think he's so far gone. I think this is a staffer putting something in front of him and saying, sign here. I think it is being, the U.S. government is being run. It's the biggest scandal. I know your audience doesn't need to.
Time out. Hold on, Julie. And we know that this is true because when, I don't know if you caught this over the weekend, but when they signed the order denying Nippon Steel's takeover of the American Steel Company, they hadn't erased the title of the order that they had copied it from. And Biden signed it anyway, and they let it go. So we know that there's no one that there's no one actually running things. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Julie.
No, I agree with you. It's unelected bureaucrats running the U.S. government. It's the biggest scandal. I mean, gosh, I say it's the biggest scandal. What's the biggest scandal? It's hard to really pick these days, but it is terrifying. And again, it makes me nervous up until Trump taking office. Because I don't know what next is, what's coming next. What else are they going to do? And I agree with you. This is sabotage. This drilling ban, these other things. This is, you know, they're not going to do. Who knows? But at this point, they don't have the sort of Russia collusion hoax cooking. Because at this time, 4 years ago, they were cooking up something to make his life difficult and make this administration fail. And look, you know, some of the things early on Trump did to himself, right? I mean, you know, putting some of the staffers he assigned, I was like, not a good idea. But this is a different time. But again, they're going to try to trip this administration up, and we're seeing this through some of these latest executive actions.
Now, one of the best things that the Independent Women's Forum IWF does, and IWN and IWV, the family of independent women's organizations do, is they bring the dose of reality into the discourse, especially when it comes to sexual identitarian issues and the impact on women of the policies that the Biden administration has put out there. So one of the things, you know, we're dealing with is, of course, Laken Riley and the Laken Riley bill up on Capitol Hill. I know you've got some strong opinions on this. Tell us your thoughts here.
I don't understand how you could oppose something as simple as when someone here illegally and they commit a crime, ICE, you know, gets that person, puts them in jail until, you know, they are deported. How do you vote against that, especially in light of all of the crimes? Look, Laken Riley, horrible story, awful story, and compelling. But there are so many other stories here in Northern Virginia on a popular walking trail. A woman was dragged off the trail, brutally raped. And you have Don Beyer, the representative, one of the representatives in Northern Virginia, who just today voted against the Laken Riley bill, which would have made a lot of women feel much more safe in light of the influx of millions and millions of criminals into this country. So, honestly, Andrew, I'm here to sort of make sense of things.
Yeah.
That's my job, to sort of analyze things and make sense of things. I can't make sense of this. I don't understand this. I don't understand Democrats' unwillingness to take simple, small measures to protect people against people who walked across our border, who have committed crimes in their country and then come to this country and commit more crimes. The unwillingness to deal with that small percentage of illegal aliens, it's completely baffling.
Right. And that's exactly, and they are always talking about the issue of, well, it's not all illegal immigrants that are committing these crimes. No. So let's deal with the ones who are, and yet they don't want to. So Julie, folks who don't know you, so I've known Julie forever and a day. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I've known Julie a very short time because Julie is so much younger than I am.
Tried.
Yeah, I tried. Listen, I stepped in it there. But so Julie lives in Alexandria, Virginia. She lives a stone's throw away from where the vice president-elect and his wife live, and has watched firsthand as what my father would call the Yenta Brigade in Old Town Alexandria has been all up in arms about J.D. Vance and his wife. What's happening with the Yenta Brigade? Are they now breathing a sigh of relief as the Vance family is moving out? What are you hearing on the streets, Julie?
No, they're just perpetually annoyed. These women, these are the cat ladies that Vance accurately described. These liberal women, and actually, you said Old Town. Old Town is actually relatively normal compared to Delray. Now, that is the area of Alexandria, a little pocket neighborhood within Alexandria. Of course, this is a historic city, right? The hometown of George Washington and so many of our founders. I took my parents over the holiday to a little tavern called Gatsby's Tavern, where Jefferson and Washington, they ate there. There were inaugural celebrations there. So this is the, sort of the birthplace of, everyone knows the birthplace, many birthplaces of America, but this is one of the birthplaces of America. And it is filled with lunatics. And some of these, this is a very left, very deep, dark blue part of Virginia, are appalled that J.D. Vance and his wife had the nerve to move.
How dare they?
One actually said on a sort of a forum, a local forum, he's a senator from Ohio. What in the heck is he doing buying a house in Delray, Virginia? I'm like, do they not know that senators members actually have to be here? Anyway, not the brightest people, but they have really made it difficult. They put trans flags all over the neighborhood when he first moved in. They harassed his family. They doxed his family.
They had a crochet off, right?
Yes, yes, of course, because they're all knitters. Crazy women. And then there was this group of women posted pictures on social media with his house behind him, and they were saying this is where he lives. This was done after the attempted assassination of President Trump. I mean, we laugh about this. These people are sick. They are sick. They want him harmed. They want his family harmed or worse. So we live among crazy. I live among crazy people, and I can't wait to move.
Well, there you go. Well, Julie, listen, you know how much I love the work that you do, whether it's the media work or the work you do with the IWF and the associated organizations. How do folks find out more about the work that you guys are doing? How can they join your efforts?
IWF.org is our think tank, but the IWnetwork.com is the membership organization that I run. It is a great organization. We have over more than 30 chapters. We have 55,000 members, and it is a really great place to hang out. And we provide resources. We provide chapters.
And hold on for a second, Julie. And let me just say, Julie is always looking for an excuse to be invited down to Florida. So if you're looking for a great speaker who's a lot of fun, any day that, especially after she's been on the air at 5 a.m. on WMAL, invite Julie down. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Julie. See, listen, I got to do these things.
Look, I've been with the organization. I've been with IWF and now IWM, but I've been with the organization for going on 18 years. And I always say they'll never get rid of me. They will never get rid of me. I love IW so much. I love my radio work. I love hanging out with you. But I feel like this is a really exciting time we're about to.
Gotta let you go, Julie Gumlock. Check them out. I'm Andrew Wagner.
You're listening to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Babes, what are you doing?
What? I'm just mowing the lawn.
No, it's blazing hot and dry out here. Don't you remember? Smokey Bear says.
Avoid using power equipment when it's windy or dry.
Where'd you learn this?
Oh, it's on
SmokeyBear.com with many other wildfire prevention tips.
Right. Thanks, honey bear.
Because remember, only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
All right, son. Time to put out this campfire.
Dad, we learned about this in school.
Oh, did you now? Okay. What's first?
Smokey Bear said to.
First drown it with a bucket of water, then stir it with a shovel.
Wow. You sound just like him.
Then he said.
If it's still warm, then do it again.
Where can I learn all this?
It's all on SmokeyBear.com with other wildfire prevention tips, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
I'll trust water bottles and a flashlight to save the day, but I'll be proved wrong.
With a tornado approaching, I'll realize that I like a wheelchair-accessible shelter.
When the floodwaters rise, I'll be up in the attic with 20 cans of beans. It's a recipe for disaster.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council. Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver. And we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. And in our family, we're used to getting involved, and I encourage you to do the same, especially when it comes to caring for your loved ones. When I think about Alzheimer's and the impact it had on my family, I recognize that losing a race isn't such a bad day after all. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months, and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today. We're with Liam after his 4th military move, when being new is starting to get old. We're with Tara during the holidays, when she misses home the most. We're with all service members and their families who need connection, comfort, and a home away from home. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
Now, back to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Well, hey there, everybody. I am Andrew Langer in for Drew Steele today. Drew will be back tomorrow, I believe. He's taken a well-deserved day of respite. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of me while I am on the air, facebook.com/Andrew Langer Show. You can drop me a message. You can also find me on X, or as I still call it, Twitter, @Andrew_Langer. Just at me there, bro. That would be fine. Send me a message there. Yes, I know I sound like quite the boomer when I talk about it that way. So listen, let me just get back into this. We'll go through a little bit more about what Donald Trump had to say today at his presser. Got plenty of stuff to talk about from everybody. Let's get back to what Donald Trump was saying about the political landscape.
Even talk about aspects of the case that are the most vital aspects. I'm wondering, do you know that I'm the president-elect of the United States of America? I'm a former very successful president. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We had borders that were sealed and beautiful. Everything was good. We had no wars. We defeated ISIS. We had no wars. Now I'm going into a world that's burning with Russia and Ukraine, with Israel. You took a look at that attack on October 7th, the attack on Israel, with the horrible...
and he talks about the hostages. We'll play some of that as well. But yeah, this is it's important to sort of set these things up in that way. Actually, I will talk more about the issue of Greenland in a moment, because this is really interesting. I think Trump is taking a cue in no small measure, and stick with me for a second as I say this, from the left's playbook. What do I mean by this? I mean, the one thing that we have seen from the last 4 years of the Biden administration is that they will stake out the most outrageous position in a particular public policy. They'll stake it out. And then as we rightfully raise a hue and a cry about it to push back against it, well, they moderate their position somewhat, and they can try and claim that they've engaged in some kind of compromise. Now, they know that we can't raise a hue and cry on every issue all the time, or they think that we can't, though. Folks like me have tried to do that on the policy side of things. And so when we can't, when something gets past us, well, they get a goal. I went and watched the Rangers play the Capitals over the weekend, and the Rangers were down substantially, so they went into the end of the game where they pulled their goalie from the ice, and they had their net exposed, and so of course the Caps were able to score on that. That's what they talk about with these kinds of freebies that are out there. Anyway, my point is, Donald Trump has finally learned that you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And so you might as well do the things that you want to do and lay it out there. And you take a position that goes much further than a moderate might say that you might want to do. Did I have on my bingo card, and I'm not going to be as snarky as Matt Welch, my friend Matt Welch from Reason. Did I have the United States appropriating the territory of Greenland on my bingo card? No, I didn't. Did I have us trying to retake the Panama Canal? Did I have Canada potentially become the 51st state? No, I didn't. So we're going to talk about some of this with Adam Lovinger in the next hour. Very excited to bring him on board, as well as Mike O'Neill from the Landmark Legal Foundation.
You're listening to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way. My kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org.
You're listening to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele. Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Congratulations on your show.
Congratulations on your new show. Big deal, huh?
That's why shows like yours are so important. We have an independent county elected sheriff that's the head of law enforcement in Jacksonville/Duval County. And I know how to work toward making this city safe.
We can't be shy about speaking on things such as faith and politics. We have to remember, in a free society, the public square belongs to all of us.
I'm not interested in North Florida looking like Orlando or Miami. I love where we live, but I think that good jobs means that people that live in this district can stay in this district.
Fishing and hunting is funding a large part of your conservation projects in Florida, and we want to make sure that those are forever preserved.
And the problem with this industry at this point is that they actually target our youth. You can see it in their marketing strategies, where it's bright colors, fun names.
And that's going to be endlessly litigated.
Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Hey, it's Drew Steele with an offer that can help steer your retirement in the right direction. Look, we're going to navigate the turbulent waters of 24 with its financial uncertainties and shifting tides. Having expert guidance is more crucial than ever, and that's where my good friend Alfie Townsend comes in. As Southwest Florida's certified financial planner professional, Alfie brings expert knowledge and insight. His latest book, Making Waves in Retirement, isn't just a guide. It's your navigational compass for mastering the financial seas. With decades of experience, Alfie has crafted a powerful roadmap to help you chart your course and make impactful waves in your retirement. Look, for a limited time, you can claim your free copy of this valuable guide. That's right, no cost. This book is more than just pages. It's your blueprint for a prosperous and fulfilling retirement. Don't let this opportunity drift by. Text book to 239-747-1080. That's book to 239-747-1080. Look, secure your free copy today. Let's make 24 the year you confidently navigate towards a brighter financial future. Text book to 239-747-1080.
I've been dipping snuff for well over 30 years. You know, I could wake up in the morning and have a weird lump in my gums. Guess it's like playing Russian roulette, really. I would love grandchildren. And if by quitting it extends my life some, I would gladly lay it down.
Visit tobaccofreeflorida.com to find free resources to help you quit your way.
Today, push harder, push forward, push vigorously.
There are things that I am hiding from people that I'm trying to inspire.
You can do whatever you set your mind to.
I feel like a hypocrite a lot of the times.
Don't give up on yourself ever.
Smoking, I hide it because I'm ashamed of it. I want to get out of the shadow. I want to show people there is light away from the darkness. I am going to quit.
Visit tobaccofreeflorida.com to find free resources to help you quit your way.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months, and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today. We're with Liam after his 4th military move, when being new is starting to get old. We're with Tara during the holidays, when she misses home the most. We're with all service members and their families who need connection, comfort, and a home away from home. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
It's always a good day when you hear from TJ Meister from the Floor Meisters in Naples, 6281 Naples Boulevard, 239-596-4964. All right, let's see what's going on with TJ today. How are you, TJ?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Drew. It's good to hear you on the radio.
Thanks, TJ. Appreciate it. All right, Floor Meisters, what do we got going on?
Well, we're just keeping up with the demand for Core-Tech. Just had to order a truck and bring it in from the West Coast of the United States to keep up with all the needs and wants of the people of Southwest Florida. Somebody doesn't have it, give me a call. I probably do.
Why do people love Core-Tech so much?
Well, it's waterproof, kid-proof, pet-proof. So if you got a pool, no problem. If you got a dog, no problem. If you got a husband that spills, no problem.
You got to call the Floor Meisters in Naples. What do you need? Tile, carpet, Core-Tech, 6281 Naples Boulevard in Naples, 596-4964. Give them a call, 596-4964 for the Floor Meisters.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just got to hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this. Just breathe." Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Thank you for waking us all up out here, for all you do.
Thank you for giving us a voice.
For being out there helping keep the constitutional republic. I want to thank you for
your support for veterans in the military.
Educating us.
Standing up for conservatism.
Giving us the truth.
Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Well, hey there, everybody. I am Andrew Langer in for Drew Steele. Today, Drew taking a much-needed day off, well-deserved day off. He'll be back tomorrow. You can find me, by the way. You can find me on Twitter or X at Andrew_Langer. You can message me while I am on the air, Facebook.com/Andrew Langer Show. I don't think I even said this earlier. You can call us while we're on the air. You got any questions? You got any comments? You don't like Donald Trump, you don't like what I've said about Donald Trump, call here, 866-588-8303, 866-588-8303. Going to be joined in this hour by Adam Lovinger from the Gold Institute for International Studies, going to be joined by Mike O'Neill from the Landmark Legal Foundation as well. I'm in studio with Derek, I'm in studio with Nina. We've got Eric pulling all kinds of news, breaking news, keeping us posted on these things. And we're still unpacking, because, of course, the most important news of the day is Donald Trump gave one of his celebrated, infamous, notorious, long press conferences. One of the things that distinguished himself from his opponent on the campaign trail is that Donald Trump was all too willing to talk to the press. You know, it's always the sign of an authoritarian when he wants to take unscripted questions from the press. You know, he doesn't need postcards with people's names and their questions pre-written on them. No, obviously we're talking about Joe Biden there. But here is Donald Trump. This is really the theme, I think, of where we're going with. It's not Make America. MAGA is no longer Make America Great Again. Here is what it's going to be all about.
We're approaching the dawn of America's golden age. It's going to be a golden age for America. We have things that nobody else has. We have more natural resources.
A golden age for America. Make America golden again. Let me talk about this for a minute. You know, we're talking about the economic dynamism of the United States. It'd be nice if I could actually say that word properly. But one of the things that popped out at me as, I don't remember if it was as we were approaching Election Day. You learn a little bit more about me, who I am and how I came to the values that I have. You know, we're going to be talking with Adam Lovinger in a minute, and my degree, my undergraduate degree, was in Soviet studies, Russian studies. while they were still a Soviet Union to study. And I came to my, as David Safavian said yesterday, conservatarian beliefs. So some conservative, some libertarian. My conservatarian beliefs stemmed from ardent anti-communism. I knew very early on that communism was an evil force upon this earth. Any philosophy that forces the individual to be subsumed to the collective, that's an evil force on the earth. And you see how many people were ground under the wheels of communism, the various flavors of communism, whether it was in the Soviet Union or other Eastern Bloc nations or Cuba or China or North Korea or what have you. It's an evil thing. And some of this is born out of the fact that, and this is going to give away how old I am, a little bit, but I was really starting to come to my understanding of the way the world works in 1976 with the bicentennial. And was getting my head filled chock-a-block with all the great things about who we are as a people and why we are who we are as a people. My parents would take me to places like Colonial Williamsburg, now my home, not the colonial part, but where I live now. Or up to Bunker Hill, or out to other Revolutionary War sites. And understanding what a marvelous nation this is, the only nation founded on an ideal that all men are created equal. So anyway, I had this thought, thank God someone who loves America is going to be president of the United States when we get to the semi-sesquicentennial, the 250th anniversary of America. I mean, listen, I think hate is a very strong word to use when you're talking about political opponents. But it just was not going to, can you imagine what the 250th anniversary celebration was going to be if Kamala Harris were president of the United States? If Tim Walz were vice president of the United States? I mean, listen, setting aside the unanswered questions about Tim Walz and his allegiances, that's all, of course, gone away now, though I think some erstwhile reporter should still be looking into, who Tim Walz is, and just what was going on with these, so what was it, 36 trips to China in the space of 30 years. But my point in all of this is we've got a 250th anniversary coming up next year, and it is going to be a glorious celebration of this golden age of America. Someone who I know loves America is my next guest. His name is Adam Lovinger. He's with the Gold Institute for International Studies. He's got this great book out called The Insider Threat. And unfortunately, Adam, I don't have the subtitle in front of me. What's the subtitle?
Oh, here it is. How the Deep State Undermines America from Within.
How the Deep State Undermines America from Within. We were talking, I don't know if you felt your ears burning yesterday, Adam, because I was talking with Brandon Whiteshirt and was mentioning the conversation that you and I had for the long-form podcast that I do. But let's talk about, first of all, the geopolitical state right now, sort of, and how you're looking at it, the chaos that's going on around the world, Donald Trump stepping in there. What do you make of Donald Trump talking about wanting to find some closer relationship between Greenland and the United States?
I think that, Donald Trump's a very refreshing politician, and that he has a tendency to do what the founders of the United States envisioned, which was to raise issues that are strategically important, big issues, but also controversial ones.
Right.
One thing I find, I don't think anyone should be alarmed by this. Trump is an outside-the-box thinker. That allowed, for example, the United States to usher in the Abraham Accords, which brought peace between Israel and its Sunni Arab, former adversaries. And so Trump, he tries things on. And if you look at his first administration, when Trump tries something out and it doesn't work and it doesn't seem to make sense, but he sort of brings together like all the refiner's fire and the various robust and the robust discourse that our founders envisioned that politicians would have with the American people, he will change directions if he doesn't feel like this is the right way to go. So I'm not threatened or concerned by anything regarding Greenland. I think that it's
hold on for a second. Here's why I raise it, and I want to be really clear. I'm not raising it in a negative way at all. I mean, when you look at, I was talking a little bit earlier about a map that George Landreth from Frontiers of Freedom puts out there in his PowerPoint presentations about the choke points that China creates on the high seas, by being in charge of various ports and various straits. It seems to me that if China can engage in their Belt and Road initiative around the world and bring these folks and have these, closer ties throughout Africa and, build seaports and build airports and other kinds of infrastructure that they later go in and repossess, why can't the United States be talking about renaming the Gulf of Mexico or having closer ties with Greenland or talking about renegotiating the Panama Canal Treaty? I mean, that's where I'm going with this. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I think that these are all good discussions to have. I mean, why take issues of geostrategic importance off the table? No, a president's supposed to put those issues on the table. Keep in mind, we were just talking in my family about Alaska last night. We purchased Alaska from Russia.
Right.
So, these are things that are not unthinkable. Just perhaps Denmark wants to sell Greenland. I don't know. But at least, have the discussion. This whole notion that the current, geostrategic reality is set in stone is nonsense. I mean, you just have to look at history and,
Because Adam and I were talking about this. This is going to be inside and it's going to be of import to him and me and maybe a handful of others. A lot of folks don't know this, Adam, but you worked for a white shoe law firm, early on in your career, Clifford Chance. One of the other white shoe firms, perhaps the original white shoe firm, Cravath, Swaine and Moore, had as one of its precursors, William Henry Seward's law firm, Blatchford, Seward and Griswold. A lot of folks don't know this. Why I know this is too sad to tell. So as we're talking about Seward's Folly, I thought that I would insert that. Let's talk about the book, though, because this is important. The intelligence community struck back in a very real way against Donald Trump, in a very real way against a man who folks need to understand was one of your mentors, General Michael Flynn, but also against you. Talk about what happened to you and why the deep state came after you, at least why you think the deep state came after you.
Yeah, I mean, it relates to what we were talking about in that Trump, he is an unusual politician. He's not a creature of Washington, D.C. He is an outsider who comes in. And so he throws out these ideas and he tries on novel notions like draining the swamp and making the U.S. government accountable not to itself, but to the American people. And so here you have Donald Trump coming in. He's an outsider. He's not compromised by having to go up the various ranks of through political machines where blackmail files get generated. Maybe a lot of Americans don't realize, but to even become a candidate for president of the United States, you have to you have to strike a lot of dirty deals often. Yeah. And so, but Trump comes in unburdened, willing to take on these sacred cows like the corrupt administrative state, certainly, very wasteful parts of it. But when he comes in, he also recognizes that while he's an outsider, he brings in that, important perspective. He also needs insiders working with him and working for his administration to show him really, where the skeletons are buried and all the various nooks and crannies of the administrative state. And so here you have an empowered outsider then coming in, bringing in and relying upon an insider like General Michael Flynn, who had a 33-year Army intelligence background, myself to a lesser extent, And so we are the insiders that can show him, where to start draining the swamp. And that was something that the deep state did not want him to know, did not want Trump to know. So I call Flynn in my book an existential threat to the deep state.
Wow.
Because,
But hold on, let's actually talk about this, because one of the things you talk about in the book are the dirty deals that the IC cuts with the enemies of the United States, Russia and China. We could obviously talk about the 2016 campaign. You and I did this yesterday. But yesterday, morning, we had this announcement of this offshore drilling ban. There are more than two. There are three major entities that are enemies of the United States that benefit from this. Russia, China, and Iran all benefit materially from the United States banning offshore drilling. This is what you're talking about in the book, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And, I think that, where the book sort of, sheds new light on a topic that, but, most books don't. But I think that there will be an increasing sort of drum play of more books exposing what I'm writing about, is that something you were talking about previously in the show, Andrew, which is that you have this, growing view on American university campuses and amongst, certain, coastal elites that America is not a very nice place, is a oppressive and imperialist, country that subjugates, non-Western parts of the world. And, you're talking about, celebrating the 250th anniversary of our country and what that looks like under Trump versus Kamala Harris. What I'm saying is that this worldview of America being an oppressor, of America being an imperialist country, a white supremacist country, that you see on these Ivy League university campuses, this worldview gets brought into the national security bureaucracy, gets brought into the intelligence community. And if America is such a bad place, is it so surprising that these people that hold this view will seek to cut America down, will seek to sabotage America from within? And to really do that, you start collaborating with America's enemies. And this is something that I show in the book, collaborating with the Russians, collaborating with the Iranians, the Chinese. This should not surprise anybody, because this worldview lends itself to that, treasonous behavior.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, was something that was presaged and predicted by Nikita Khrushchev, in his famous, "We will bury you, we will be at your funeral" speech. I mean, this is what he was predicting, that we would be the causes for our own demise. Not that I think that America is in demise, but certainly there are folks who want to hasten our weaknesses. This is what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And, we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, going back to 1917, you have Leon Trotsky in the streets of New York, really, ginning up this anti-Americanism. And, one thing that the Russians have done is that they're very good students of history, and they realize it's hard to take America on head on. But we're an open society, and we're really ripe for infiltration. And this has been a long-term problem, but it's gotten worse because you have more and more institutions that are taken over by these Soviet notions like diversity, equity, and inclusion and critical race theory. I mean, all these things, all these ideologies that seek to divide and conquer America, these really have their origins in Soviet political war.
And as you experienced firsthand, we don't want to give the book away. The book, of course, is The Insider Threat. The author is Adam Lovinger, our guest right now. But you tell the story about how you went through five different secret Star Chamber administrative hearings about the future of your career, your ability to practice your craft in the intelligence community and the national security world. You wound up being victorious ultimately, but not without, a great deal of stress. That's the story of the book, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a little bit worse than that. So, frankly, I haven't really been victorious ultimately because my career was genuinely ruined in the national security bureaucracy based entirely on lies. You mentioned these 5 investigations. There were 2. I had a spotless career, a 12-year spotless career, exemplary performance ratings, no security clearance issues at all. General Flynn calls for me to come to the National Security Council at the Trump White House. And then a month later, sure enough, I've got 5 investigations against me. Yeah. And the whole point is not because I did anything wrong. It's that investigations get weapon, and the investigation itself is the punishment. And and even though these investigations exonerated me, still my career was ruined based on lies, and it remains sort of in the gutter to this day.
But you get to come on shows with the likes of me. So I guess that, you know, to me, that's maybe that is the ultimate kind of hell for some people. I suppose. Adam, how do folks listen? How do folks find out about the book? Where can they go and find it? It really is great. But how does everybody else get the book?
Yeah, so fortunately, there's only 2 Adam Lovingers in the entire United States of America. So my last name is Loving with an ER at the end. So it's easy to find me. And it's on Amazon. It's on Encounter Books. They're my great publishers. You can buy it on the Encounter Book website, but Amazon, Barnes & Noble, you can get it many different ways.
It's a great book, Adam, and I can't wait to get together with you soon and have you sign my copy of it. How do folks find out more about, as I always say this, folks are probably sick of this already, how do folks find out more about the good work that you're doing and the good work at the Gold Institute that they're doing?
Yeah, no, please, go to the Gold Institute for International Strategy website. And, certainly, and your viewers are welcome to contact me on LinkedIn. You can find me that way, and, happy to engage that way.
Terrific. Adam Lovinger, you take care. Best of luck to you, my friend.
Thank you, Andrew.
There you go. That was Adam Lovinger, the book, of course, The Insider Threat. You got to go and check it out. It's just, what had happened was I was at an event in D.C. a couple of weeks ago, and I heard Adam speak. I'm like, boy, I've got to get him on the air. If you like what you hear on these kinds of interviews, I've mentioned this. I do not 1, not 2, but 3 different podcasts, and one of them is called The Lunch Hour. It's done by an outlet called the Federal Newswire. It's a news aggregation service, and I do a weekly deep dive into public policy. Interviews are about 30 to 45 minutes. We get really in-depth on things. Adam, I recorded with him yesterday. That interview will be coming up. You can find out this stuff if you follow me on Twitter, at Andrew_Langer on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. I always enjoy talking to these guys. They have such compelling stories to tell, and we really, on the Lunch Hour podcast, we go deep. This week's show, I sit down with a gentleman named Alex Adams. He is the director of the Department of the Budget and Education. No, he's the head of the Department of Education, Health, and Welfare in Idaho. But he deals with Idaho's regulatory environment, and we have a lengthy conversation about how you engage in massive regulatory reform, what the rest of the nation can learn from the successes that Idaho has had. So anyway, we're going to continue to talk about these things. Here, to get back to this issue of Greenland, here is President Trump talking about it in his press conference today a little more.
For national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But
well, it's one of those things where it's funny because the Danish prime minister, I guess, or whoever the head of state in Denmark is. And it's so funny because I worked with someone who wound up marrying the Prince of Denmark. It was the weirdest thing years ago. I was working for an organization, and somebody there was dating a guy who was part of the Danish royalty. Anyway, they were saying, well, the people of Greenland, they can determine for themselves where they want to be. Okay, so if the people of Greenland vote to join the United States, then they'll join the United States. I guess we're getting the go-ahead. Listen, we're going to be joined in a moment by Mike O'Neill from the Landmark Legal Foundation. We're going to get the Supreme Court preview. I'm Andrew Langer. This is Florida's Voice.
You're listening to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. Being a veteran, it's interwoven into your DNA. It is really the absence of the connection and the purpose that can really drive a lot of veterans to some negative thoughts. For those who are in a suicidal crisis, the window of time to save somebody's life is very short. Our duty is to protect ourselves and protect our families. And one way you can do that is store your weapons safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Hey, it's Drew Steele, and you probably know this. I've had a music career, an EMI published songwriter in the past. I've had a top 20 Billboard hit and movie soundtracks. But I got my start right here in Southwest Florida at Soundcheck Studios with Jim Becker. I worked with Jim when he was producing big names like Castrol and Beck's Beer and other commercial clients from ABC, NBC, CBS. He's done it all. It doesn't make a difference what your musical style is. If you're talking about recording for bands or producing music, jingles, he does it all at Soundcheck Studios. Recently, he worked with RCA artist Doja Cat and also a Sony artist Flipped an Arrow. A lot of great artists have made their way through Soundcheck Studios. So if you want to make your brand memorable with a jingle or maybe a commercial you want to cut, or maybe it's a band, give Soundcheck Studios a call today. 239-340-0515. That's 239-340-0515 for Soundcheck Studios.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
Hey, you got this. Just breathe. Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Radical anti-hunting forces are working to ban fishing and hunting across the country. These extreme attacks on our heritage must be met. Thankfully, the International Order of T. Roosevelt is fighting back as the nation's premier organization defending our rights to fish and hunt. This April, you can step into the arena with us and join our fight in Naples, Florida. Join us at the historic Ritz-Carlton Tiburon and hear from world-class speakers including Tucker Carlson. The annual event is the best place for conservationists, anglers, hunters, and all those who want to protect the outdoors to come together, build strategies to protect our rights, and expand opportunities in the future for generations to come. Visit IOTR.org to learn more about our organization and to sign up to see Tucker in April. Visit IOTR.org to learn more about our organization and to sign up to see Tucker in April. You don't want to miss this event.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. And in our family, we're used to getting involved, and I encourage you to do the same, especially when it comes to caring for your loved ones. When I think about Alzheimer's and the impact it had on my family, I recognize that losing a race isn't such a bad day after all. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
To some, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much, but that's not true. They're testing out vowels and consonants and trying different sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on meaning, especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Learn more at autismspeaks.org.
Hey, it's Drew Steele with a game-changing offer for those ready to master their retirement journey. Look, we're going to navigate unpredictable waters in 24, an election year marked by financial uncertainty. It's crucial. You've got to have expert guidance. That's where my good friend Alfie Townsend comes in. The Southwest Florida certified financial planner professional, Alfie brings unparalleled experience and insight to the table. His latest book, Making Waves in Retirement, it's not just a guide. It's your strategic compass for navigating the financial seas with confidence. Look, with decades of experience, Alfie has created a powerful roadmap. It'll help you chart your course and make meaningful waves in your retirement. And for a limited time, you can get your hands on this book free. That's right, no cost. The book is more than just a collection of stories. It's a blueprint for achieving a prosperous and fulfilling retirement. So don't miss out. Text book to 239-747-1080 right now. It's book to 239-747-1080 and claim your free copy today. Let's make 24 the year you confidently steer towards a brighter financial future. Text book to 239-747-1080.
Now, back to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
So if we wait for our guests to come on, by the way, I'm Andrew Langer in for Drew today. Drew will be back. So glad I could join you and you can join me. I could join the team here at Florida's Voice. Thrilled. It's so much fun. You can message me while I'm on the air, facebook.com/Andrew Langer Show. You can at me on Twitter. At Andrew_Langer, Langer, because there's so much going on with speech and speech issues. Before we bring on Mike O'Neill from Landmark Legal Foundation, there was a big announcement today. Color me skeptical, but I'm at least cautiously optimistic that Facebook is not going to engage in censorship. Whatever that means. Now, you all know if you've spent any time on Facebook in the last few years and you're conservative, you know that it is very hard to get your message out and get it magnified. And I've got some thoughts as to the trade issues and honesty and openness in terms of service, et cetera, et cetera. There seems to be some opacity there. But we always knew that there was some kind of censorship going on the platform. Well, Mark Zuckerberg says that they're going to not do that anymore. Here is just a little bit from what Zuckerberg had to say today.
Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The U.S. has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has...
Okay, but it's kind of hard for you to make that argument, Mark. Yes, we know that there was pressure out there. We know that the federal government and the executive branch especially offers up and puts enormous pressure on entities to bend to their will. But it's not like there wasn't political agendizing within Facebook that was driving this. By the way, you want to talk about secret courts. Now, listen, I get this. Facebook is a private platform, a private marketplace, but this gets into the opacity of the terms of service. When you have posts that are taken down or you're shadow banned and you have no recourse, right? If you're someone who's paid money to have a post promoted and you're getting no response on that promotion, you're getting absolutely no bang for your buck and you're not able to figure out why. Or again, you put something up there and you have no recourse when it gets taken down. That's a problem. I got a problem with that. And it's funny as he's talking about this, and I know Mike is ready to come on. We'll grab Mike in a second. But apparently, Facebook going down this road of even working with any sort of cooperation with the Trump administration. Well, Jim Acosta and Brian Stelter at CNN, they weren't happy about this. Here's what they had to say.
Brian, we've come a long way from those days when Elon Musk, took over Twitter and said, I'm going to make this a free speech marketplace. We're going to be completely neutral and so on. That's just completely out the window. But let's talk about some of these headlines we've been seeing where you have foreign leaders raising questions about the influence that he has.
Yes, and it's because Musk has been raising attention about sexual abuse of children in the United Kingdom dating back decades. Some of these stories actually go back about 20 years. Musk has been bringing them up on X over and over again, in some cases acting as if he's just discovered some of these stories. They are horrible stories, but oftentimes it seems like Musk is coming in like a
So we'll get back to the Musk issue and Twitter. I mean, the bottom line for me, and I am very much of a free speech absolutist here. I am of the opinion, this is where my small L libertarian leaning step forward. The only answer to speech you don't like is more speech, right? You push back on the things you don't like. You talk about why you don't like it. Censorship is never the answer. Plus, it has the added benefit of knowing who the jerks are in your environment, and that's underselling it, by the way, right? As one of my mentors years ago, a gentleman named Michael Grieva, said to me at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, you want the most hateful of us to spew out their hatred so that they create big pink neon signs over their head showing that they're the people you want to avoid in this world. But obviously this gets at the heart of a lot of the debates that are happening today. Joining us right now is Mike O'Neill. He is the Assistant General Counsel and the Barbara K. Olson Legal Counsel at the Landmark Legal Foundation. Mike, listen, I mean, there's these issues, the tech and censorship and the role of government. This is all at the heart of stuff that's happening in the Supreme Court this term, isn't it?
Absolutely. We're poised to jump right into this debate. Just at the end of this week, there's going to be oral arguments in the case TikTok versus Garland. You're talking about censorship. You're talking about infringement of their First Amendment rights, of free speech rights. That's going to be tested directly in front of the court this week. We're going to have a case now. You probably recall last year, Congress passed a law essentially prohibiting the operation of TikTok, the popular social media application, 170 million users in the United States here. Now you said, why did Congress pass this law that would prohibit the operation of TikTok? Why would they prohibit it from being attached to new devices? Well, under Congress's rationale here is that the operation, dominion, and control exercised by China, our adversary, posed a national security threat. It was data collection and data manipulation is what Congress was really concerned with. Now, the question here is, of course, what level of scrutiny is going to be looked at here? Is the Supreme Court going to apply a strict scrutiny standard and going to say, hey, look, we understand this implicates First Amendment rights of not only the users, the TikTok as a corporation, but also the users of TikTok. Again, you're talking about 170 million users, so this has broad national implications. Whether this violates First Amendment principles here. And of course, then the question is, what level of scrutiny are we going to say this? Did Congress adequately justify the rationale for passing this law? In other words, is the protection of, is prohibiting China from accessing the data of these 170 million Americans, potentially manipulating the data, collecting it, using it for nefarious or adversarial purposes, a legitimate reason to curtail the First Amendment rights of these individuals? And this is going to be the issue that the court's going to be wrestling with. Particularly, again, we're talking about new era with a widely utilized social media application. Going into this Friday, we're going to hear the justices where they're going to come down. This case came very quickly to the U.S. Supreme Court. The law is poised to go in effect on January 19th. And I think the court's really going to act probably fairly quickly. We know when the court recognizes the urgency of a situation, it can act quicker than its normal calendar. Remember, most decisions from the Supreme Court come down. The big decisions come down in June, late spring, early summer. I think we're going to have a decision sooner rather than later in this case, shortly after oral arguments.
Well, and this why we had the story yesterday. Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank is talking about buying TikTok. How would that change the dynamics of all of this?
Yeah. There was a provision in it. If TikTok divested from its Chinese control and ownership, then it would be preserved. Then it would be permissible to operate this. Look, if a domestic corporation owned TikTok, I don't think we'd be having this discussion. The question here is the national security implications that Congress found. Now, whether those, again, that's their justification. Look, whether we can recognize that the First Amendment is implicated here. I think the court is focusing on that. The issue presented was whether this violates the First Amendment. So we're going to be talking about this here. It's whether the justification, the federal government's, the Congress's justification meets that standard we're talking about if we're going to apply the strict standard level of scrutiny. Now, of course, if somebody, a domestic or a non-adversarial entity purchased TikTok, I think that those justifications would go out the window. And I don't think the operation would be prohibited.
It's one of those things where I've spent a lot of time in the last few weeks talking to folks about the Kids Online Safety Act. Now, I don't like the addictive nature of social media. I don't like the things that kids get exposed to online, but I am also deeply, deeply skeptical and deeply troubled by, giving sweeping powers to federal bureaucracies to solve these problems. And I know that's not quite what we're talking about here, but they're certainly adjacent to one another, aren't they, Mike?
Oh, certainly. And I mean, and this is the new era we're wrestling with. I'm a free speech. I'm along the lines. I'm a free speech purist and absolutist too. But I mean, if you want to really come down on it, it's really, we're in a new era here. If you reckon, is Congress had a legislative duty, they exercised that legislative duty, and they made a finding, and whether that meets the strict scrutiny standard is up in the air here. And, whether this national security implications are real and cogent and cognizant, and whether that there actually is a problem with Chinese having access to this data and access to manipulation, I think it's an open question. So we're really in a new era here. And again, in other cases, we're talking about, look, there's the Free Speech Coalition versus Paxton. This is a case about age verification. You have states here that are passing these laws. It's not just Texas. It's Texas and 18 other states have passed these age verification laws saying that if children are going to have access to pornography, they have to, banning, essentially, trying to limit minor access to pornography, saying you have to verify that you're over 18 years of age. Now, again, there was a case in Tennessee. A judge just said that the Tennessee law, which had this age verification, is going to be enjoined, is going to be stopped. It doesn't pass muster under the First Amendment. And what was the rationale there? The rationale there was that, is this law, this broad-based law, as you're kind of getting into, is this the least restrictive means for infringing on the First Amendment rights of presumably these companies here? And is there a First Amendment right? And again, is there a less restrictive means to, in other words, and that's a test a court's going to apply here. In other words, I think the court in Tennessee, this was a district court just opinion that just came out today. I think the court said, well, look, there's parental controls we can act, and that's less restrictive. So you have all these issues that courts are juggling with. It's going to be a really interesting application and how our First Amendment.
I mean, the idea that states are creating databases of people who access adult websites and their birth dates, I can't imagine what could possibly go wrong with that. I mean, it's that's where we talk about privacy and all of those issues. But let's come back. Let's talk about some of the other cases that are on this term. I mean, we've had some really stellar ones. I spent a lot of time in the last couple of days talking about Loper Bright and the overturning of the Chevron doctrine. It's an issue near and dear to my heart because of the regulatory policy work that I do. What else is up for grabs, for lack of a better term, in this Supreme Court term?
Yeah, I think, just to expand on you're talking about the size and scope of the administrative state. And of course, Donald Trump has made that one of his pillars of his new administration, is reducing the size and scope of the administrative state. And I think you have a case, Garland versus Vanderstock, which is a Second Amendment case, a gun rights case. This is a case that was argued late last year, and it involves a regulation by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the ATF, prohibiting the sale and purchase of ghost guns. And again, what is a ghost gun? It's the gun kit you can purchase and put together yourself. Well, this involves, again, the extent to which an administrative agency, in this case ATF, can promulgate and enforce a regulation maybe separate and apart from what its legal authority is. And I think this is kind of within the line of how far can these administrative agencies go in pressing their agenda. Now, as you said, you talked about Loper Bright, again, West Virginia versus EPA. That's Loper Bright's revocation of the Chevron doctrine that's putting administrative agencies in their place. West Virginia versus EPA, that's major questions doctrine, again, saying Congress doesn't necessarily vest these administrative agencies with the authority that they all think they have. And there's been really we're seeing, hopefully, people like me, people like you, it sounds like, want to see a new era in administrative law where these agencies stay in their statutory lanes. And again, this is a case where the court, this is continuing with that. It's not necessarily what they decide, it's how they decide and the process and power that they necessarily have asserted.
Mike, we gotta leave it there. How do folks find out more about the work that you guys at the Landmark Legal Foundation do?
Yeah, you can go to our website, landmarklegal.org, and see all the good things we're working on. Again, we're working really hard to curb the size and scope of the administrative state. So that issue is near and dear to your heart, near and dear to my heart as well.
Take care, Mike. You have a happy new year.
You too.
That's Mike O'Neill. Michael O'Neill, he's the Assistant General Counsel and the Barbara K. Olson Legal Counsel at the Landmark Legal Foundation. And by the way, if you're unfamiliar with this, one of the wonderful things that we have in the United States is a network of nonprofit, conservative and conservatarian, free market, limited government legal foundations out there that are doing this kind of work. So whether it's Landmark Legal Foundation or Atlantic Legal Foundation or Pacific Legal Foundation or the Institute for Justice, I can go through a whole litany, a whole list of entities that are out there. Go and find them out and see. They're wonderful organizations. Listen, we're going to do a reset. When we come back, I'll talk a little bit more about this book. I'm Andrew Lang. This is...
You're listening to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Babes, what are you doing?
What? I'm just mowing the lawn.
No, it's blazing hot and dry out here. Don't you remember? Smokey Bear says.
Avoid using power equipment when it's windy or dry.
Where'd you learn this?
Oh, it's on
SmokeyBear.com with many other wildfire prevention tips.
Right. Thanks, Honey Bear.
Because remember, only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
All right, son. Time to put out this campfire.
Dad, we learned about this in school.
Oh, did you now? Okay. What's first?
Smokey Bear said to.
First drown it with a bucket of water, then stir it with a shovel.
Wow. You sound just like him.
Then he said.
If it's still warm, then do it again.
Where can I learn all this?
It's all on SmokeyBear.com with other wildfire prevention tips, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
I'll trust water bottles and a flashlight to save the day, but I'll be proved wrong.
With a tornado approaching, I'll realize that I like a wheelchair-accessible shelter.
When the floodwaters rise, I'll be up in the attic with 20 cans of beans. It's a recipe for disaster.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council. Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver. And we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. And in our family, we're used to getting involved, and I encourage you to do the same, especially when it comes to caring for your loved ones. When I think about Alzheimer's and the impact it had on my family, I recognize that losing a race isn't such a bad day after all. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months, and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today. We're with Liam after his 4th military move, when being new is starting to get old. We're with Tara during the holidays, when she misses home the most. We're with all service members and their families who need connection, comfort, and a home away from home. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
Now, back to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Well, hey, everybody. I'm Andrew Langer in for Drew Steele today. Listen, we got so much more to go on the show. Very excited when we bring him on in the next hour. My good buddy Jerry Rogers, the editor of Real Clear Policy, my co-host at Andrew and Jerry Save the World. He's a radio host as well. Haven't had my conversation with Jerry today. Someone that I talk to usually several times a day. But before I were to bring him on, I want to tee something up. So there was a thing that happened yesterday. One of the things Jerry and I spend a lot of time talking about are narratives, and the dishonest narratives that happen, that come out of mainstream media. And yesterday there was this moment where this story that got manufactured. There's a senator from Nebraska. Her name is Deb Fischer. And she was sworn in by Vice President Harris, Madame Vice President Harris, yesterday. And there was a moment where it looked like Deb Fischer's husband, Bruce, had snubbed her. And it was certainly it was an awkward moment. Let me play this so you can hear this. So they're coming up. Senator Fischer is standing there opposite the vice president, and the husband comes over to hold the Bible. And this video you can't see below anybody's, really there below their chest, a little bit below their chest. And Deb Fischer's husband, his right hand is blocked from the camera. She places her hand on the Bible.
Do you solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution?
Oh, and by the way, as he's moving over there, Kamala Harris says, come on and stand over here, I won't bite.
Okay.
And he sort of doesn't acknowledge it. I won't bite. Just heard that.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear to support
and he administers the oath, and she reaches out her hand, and he doesn't take her hand to shake her hand. And of course, as you can imagine, the left went all up, like, oh, Republican senator's husband refuses to shake the hand of the Democratic nominee for president, the vice president of the United States, blah, blah, blah. He's a racist. He's a white supremacist. In fact, you know something, I don't have to expand on the hyperbole here. Here is Joy Reid on MSNBC talking about this.
The way that at least one Republican's spouse reacted to the Vice President of the United States on Friday when she swore in Deb Fischer of Nebraska. It appears that the husband of this United States Senator would not even shake hands with the Vice President of the United States. And I think what that shows, Congressman, is that there is not an equal reverence for our democracy in both of these two parties.
How about this? No, there isn't an equal reverence for democracy in these two parties. There is one side that wants to tell you what's going on in the world and another side that wants to lie to you about what's going on in the world. And it's funny because if you go and you watch this clip, let me not bury the lead here. Bruce Fischer uses a cane. In his left hand, he was holding the Bible for his wife to put her hand on, and in the right hand, which you couldn't see on camera, he had a cane, and he was leaning on the cane because he couldn't stand up without the cane. Now, you know something? If you watch the video, it's very clear that after Kamala Harris does this, she looks down and she sees the cane, and she raises her eyebrows and realizes that she's the one who messed things up. Go back and watch the video. I'm Andrew Langer, after the news, Jerry Rogers, right here on Florida's Voice.
You're listening to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way, my kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org.
You're listening to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele. Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Congratulations on your show.
Congratulations on your new show. Big deal, huh?
That's why shows like yours are so important. We have an independent county elected sheriff that's the head of law enforcement in Jacksonville/Duval County. And I know how to work toward making this city safe.
We can't be shy about speaking on things such as faith and politics. We have to remember, in a free society, the public square belongs to all of us.
I'm not interested in North Florida looking like Orlando or Miami. I love where we live, but I think that good jobs means that people that live in this district can stay in this district.
Fishing and hunting is funding a large part of your conservation projects in Florida, and we want to make sure that those are forever preserved.
And the problem with this industry at this point is that they actually target our youth. You can see it in their marketing strategies, where it's bright colors, fun names.
And that's going to be endlessly litigated.
Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Hey, it's Drew Steele with an offer that can help steer your retirement in the right direction. Look, we're going to navigate the turbulent waters of 24 with this financial uncertainties and shifting tides. Having expert guidance is more crucial than ever, and that's where my good friend Alfie Townsend comes in. A Southwest Florida's certified financial planner professional, Alfie brings expert knowledge and insight. His latest book, Making Waves in Retirement, isn't just a guide. It's your navigational compass for mastering the financial seas. With decades of experience, Alfie has crafted a powerful roadmap to help you chart your course and make impactful waves in your retirement. Look, for a limited time, you can claim your free copy of this valuable guide. That's right, no cost. This book is more than just pages. It's your blueprint for a prosperous and fulfilling retirement. Don't let this opportunity drift by. Text book to 239-747-1080. That's book to 239-747-1080. Look, secure your free copy today. Let's make 24 the year you confidently navigate towards a brighter financial future. Text book to 239-747-1080.
I've been dipping snuff for well over 30 years. You know, I could wake up in the morning and have a weird lump in my gums. Guess it's like playing Russian roulette, really. I would love grandchildren. And if by quitting it extends my life some, I would gladly lay it down.
Visit tobaccofreeflorida.com to find free resources to help you quit your way.
Today, push harder, push forward, push vigorously.
There are things that I am hiding from people that I'm trying to inspire.
You can do whatever you set your mind to.
I feel like a hypocrite a lot of the times.
Don't give up on yourself ever.
Smoking, I hide it because I'm ashamed of it. I want to get out of the shadow. I want to show people there is light away from the darkness. I am going to quit.
Visit tobaccofreeflorida.com to find free resources to help you quit your way.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months, and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today. We're with Liam after his 4th military move, when being new is starting to get old. We're with Tara during the holidays, when she misses home the most. We're with all service members and their families who need connection, comfort, and a home away from home. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
It's always a good day when you hear from TJ Meister from the Floor Meisters in Naples, 6281 Naples Boulevard, 239-596-4964. All right, let's see what's going on with TJ today. How are you, TJ?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Drew. It's good to hear you on the radio.
Thanks, TJ. Appreciate it. All right, Floor Meisters, what do we got going on?
Well, we're just keeping up with the demand for Cortec. Just had to order a truck and bring it in from the West Coast of the United States to keep up with all the needs and wants of the people of Southwest Florida. Somebody doesn't have it, give me a call. I probably do.
Why do people love Cortec so much?
Well, it's waterproof, kid-proof, pet-proof. So if you got a pool, no problem. If you got a dog, no problem. If you got a husband that spills, no problem.
You got to call the Floor Meisters in Naples. What do you need? Tile, carpet, Cortec, 6281 Naples Boulevard in Naples, 596-4964. Give them a call, 596-4964 for the Floor Meisters.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just got to hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
Hey, you got this. Just breathe. Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Thank you for waking us all up out here, for all you do.
Thank you for giving us a voice.
For being out there helping keep the constitutional republic. I want to thank you for
your support for veterans in the military.
Educating us.
Standing up for conservatism.
Giving us the truth.
Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Well, we got a bit of breaking news that's happening, courtesy of Eric Darchie in our news department here at Florida's Voice. A statewide grand jury has declared that Big Pharma engaged in deceptive practices in their deployment of the COVID-19 vaccines. I don't know if he's up to speed on this, but in addition to editing Real Clear Policy, he is the editor of Real Clear Health. He's my best buddy. His name is Jerry Rogers. He's the host of the Business of America podcast. Hey, what's going on, man?
How are you? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I was going to talk.
It's nice to be on in sunny Florida. I tell you what.
Yes, listen. Anything's better than pristine Germantown, Maryland. I think, Jerry. Right?
12 inches of snow, my brother.
That's yes. 12 inches for you, Jerry.
Andrew, I haven't heard about this. I haven't heard about this ruling, but it's very interesting. And again, maybe this begins the reckoning. You and I have talked about this, and I've written about it, and that is the American people do not trust the public health community, NIH, CDC, FDA, and it's because they behaved badly during COVID. And I think it's about time that there's a reset, because we're going to have another pandemic. We're going to have diseases that we need new cures and therapies, and we have to trust the science. And so maybe now we could have a reckoning where we could put science over politics.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because this it's not a decision, it's not a ruling, it's a finding by this. Florida statewide grand jury finds Big Pharma engaged in a pattern of deceptive and obfuscatory behavior while pushing the COVID-19 vaccine. Isn't it interesting, Jerry, that this finding comes out today as Mark Zuckerberg now says that they're not going to engage in censorship online? You and I have talked about this, reckoning. You and I, on our podcast, Andrew and Jerry Save the World, savetheworldpodcast.transistor.fm, Andrew and Jerry Save the World, we had a number of podcasts taken down. Jerry's the editor of Real Clear Health, for Pete's sake, one of the most learned and knowledgeable people when it comes to healthcare policy issues. You read everything. And we would have during the pandemic, we had podcasts taken down because we were daring to report what the findings were out there, weren't we?
And this was the problem. Again, it was social media, but it was also the Biden administration, the Department of Justice. It was other entities within the government pressuring social media companies and private entities to take down speech, to stifle speech. Look, there was an absolute censorship regime during COVID, and this is a problem. Censorship, stifling the free exchange of ideas. When you want to have a democracy and a republic, you have to exchange ideas. And also, Andrew, especially when it comes to science, let's have the argument. Right? Let's have the argument. This is how science works. Anyway, we're not done yet. Look, there are still too many entities within the government, but also private entities, private sector citizens like Hillary Clinton, who just received the Presidential Freedom Award. This is someone who has called for censorship. Kamala Harris has called for censorship. Tim Walz called for censorship. You have members of Congress calling for censorship. It's dangerous.
Well, and the other part of this is the disinformation and the disinformation narrative, right? Before we went to the news, before you came on, I played the video clip of this swearing-in ceremony. Senator Fisher's husband not shaking Kamala Harris's hand. At least that's the narrative.
He has a cane.
No, not only did he have a cane, Jerry, but if you look at the video, Kamala Harris looks down, sees the cane in his right hand, and recognizes that she's the one who's at fault here. But nobody's noticing. You see her eyebrows go up, and she's like, "Oh my God, what did I just had
pulled
a
her hand back."
moment. Yeah.
Andrew Langer, you know what I thought of? Because I'm involved in politics and policy, and we've been involved in politics for a long time, I had the occasion to meet the late Senator Robert Dole several times. Yes. Bob Dole. Guess what Bob Dole and I never did?
We
never shook hands because he had a injured arm, an injured hand from World War II, Jerry, and he carried a pen.
Can you tell everybody the Jack Kemp Bible story, or is that not appropriate to tell on the air?
Well, long story short, so Andrew and I did something.
I love this story, and I say this because you raised the issue of Bob Dole. Jack Kemp, of course, was Bob Dole's running mate. Jerry and I got to know Jack Kemp a little bit. Great deal of respect for Jack Kemp as a policy person. But boy, oh boy, I'm sorry, Jerry, tell the story.
So Jack Kemp was, of course, with some other leaders, headed up Empower America, and they had a donor who loved Abraham Lincoln and collected artifacts and things from Abraham Lincoln's life. And so, as a present to thank him for years of contributions, there was a Bible that was signed by Abraham Lincoln. And so Gene Kirkpatrick and others were present, and they Bill Bennett was present. Bill Bennett told me the story. Anyway, so they present him with this Bible, and he's overwhelmed with emotion, literally, very sincerely. He's overwhelmed. And Jack Kemp gets up and he thinks, "You think it's worth something now?" And he grabs it and he signs it, Jack Kemp.
Oh my God.
And gives it back to him, to the horror of
God,
Patrick and others in the room. But you have to have an ego to be a quarterback and to be a politician.
Of the Buffalo Bills, certainly.
And God rest his soul, Jack Kemp.
You have to have a Donald Trump-sized ego. So
the Gulf of America.
Gulf of America, Greenland as the 53rd states. What do you make of it? So I put out the thesis earlier that this is, Donald Trump's finally learning from the Democrats, is that you stake out these positions because you might be able to get something over the finish line, but if you go and you compromise even a little bit, it makes you look a little bit more reasonable. But he's finally learned you got to stake out these positions, don't you?
Look, everyone likes to say Teddy Roosevelt, right? Walk silent, carry a big stick. That is not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is walking tall. Remember the movie Walking Tall from the 1970s?
Oh yes, loved it. Both of them. Loved both of them.
So what Trump is, he's just carrying a big stick. And again, a lot of this you have to. The serious point to receive here is that America is back. We're not going to let the Chinese push us around. We're not going to tolerate terrorism either here in the U.S. or abroad. He is putting the world on notice that America is back, and guess what? You're going to put your hand on us. We're going to put our hand on you, and that's a good message.
No, it is a very good message, and I made the point regarding this Gulf of America situation. It's not as though the Democrats have not, and Democratic leaders have not spent millions upon millions of dollars in taxpayer money renaming things that they didn't need to rename. Right? I mean, all of the military bases that were renamed that I hope are going to go back to their...
Andrew, a lot of this is such nonsense. America has been trying to gain access to Greenland for over a century. This is not a wackadoo idea. This is something that has been part. And again, so I love it. Like, so Trump says it.
The Gulf of America more than anything else.
Right, but I'm just saying. But the thing is, Trump says something. It's like, oh my goodness, he's a wackadoo. No, he's not. And again, what was the old adage that we used to say, you and I, back in 2016, 17? Maybe not. Don't take him literally, but take him seriously. And I think that's the message here. The message is that we're going to grow the economy. We're going to push back against our enemies. We're going to build America first. We're going to put American workers first. So Canada, Mexico, China, the whole world put on notice.
I don't know, Jerry. I think there's going to come a point when J.D. Vance runs for president in 2028 that he will have to campaign in Greenland, and he's going to have to campaign in Ottawa, and who knows and they have to campaign across the Gulf of America. I mean, it's exciting stuff.
On a serious note, he has to do three things, right? He has to get the economy going. He has to deal with the border chaos and lawlessness, and he has to deal with the fires overseas, Putin in Ukraine, and Hezbollah and Hamas.
Yeah, and you know something. Glad you bring that up, because we had on Adam Lovinger, who's written a great book called The Insider Threat. He has spent years in the intelligence community, works on national security issues, talking about his own experience. And I raised the issue, he talks in his book about, American elitists doing business behind the scenes with America's enemies. And it sounds very conspiratorial. But if you think about it, because I don't think you and I talked yesterday. It's a rare day that you and I don't talk, but we didn't talk about this executive order on offshore drilling, banning offshore drilling, and how that benefits only, right? The three primary beneficiaries of this are Russia, China, and Iran. Yes. And I want to get your thoughts on this, your reaction to this.
It's shameless. It looks like what Biden. It's not Joe Biden, by the way. So it's the progressives around him. They're purposely trying to put Trump in a position of weakness. This is. Is there a word for the opposite of patriotism? Because that's what this is.
Yeah, perfidy. Yeah, it is perfidy. It is traitorousness. I mean, you and I have talked about this quite a bit over the years on our podcast, which is Andrew and Jerry Save the World, which we need to do one this week, Jerry, by the way.
Yes.
Hint, hint. But the issue of, we'd spend a lot of time. Obviously, yesterday was the anniversary of January 6th, and the left constantly, comes back to January 6th, and as an insurrection. But we have talked about the soft insurrection of undoing, messing with the Trump administration. Talk about how this plays into that idea of the soft insurrection and all of this.
Well, again, just so for the listeners, right? They're coming in. This administration, 2016, was spied on. There was all kinds of efforts to delegitimize the incoming Trump administration. Then you had 4 years trying to bankrupt him, get him off the ballot, and lawfare against him. And then you have this president. It's not just Andrew. It's not just the drilling. It's also the releasing of terrorists, right. From Guantanamo Bay. It is the economic. I mean, there's a great piece over at Real Clear Politics today talking about the enormous regulatory burden that he is leaving. And again, this is purposeful because I don't know. Do Democrats or progressive Democrats, I don't want to cast a wide net, too wide of a net, but, is it their purpose? Maybe it is to undo America. Didn't Barack Obama tell us that he wanted to transform America? Well, that's what this is. This is the continuation of the Barack Obama ethos.
Right. I mean, that's exactly it. It was 8 years of transforming America. Hillary Clinton was supposed to be the third term of Barack Obama. America didn't want that. Joe Biden came in and hit the accelerator. America didn't want that, so they tried to replace Biden with Kamala Harris, who would have been even worse. And here we have Donald Trump back in office. Jerry, how do folks learn more about Real Clear? You do an email every day, don't you?
Look, there's Real Clear Policy, and there's a newsletter that has the best original commentary, but also aggregation, and of course, Real Clear Health, which is the go-to spot for health policy. It is a trickle down. In other words, we take healthcare policy can be confusing, complicated. We make it conversational. So go to Real Clear Policy, Real Clear Health.
Wait! I can't let you go. Part of the reason why I wanted to have you on today, in addition to talking to you, because I didn't get a chance to talk to you today. You guys at Real Clear, you're doing a really interesting event in South Florida next month, are you not?
In Palm Beach, the Samizdat Award, which is an award that goes to journalists who pushed back against censorship and advocated for free speech. Jonathan Turley is getting the award.
Hold on, I want to talk about this for a second. Samizdat, folks, refers to the underground transmission of information during the end of the Cold War, the late stage of the Cold War. Samizdat was the method by which they propagated all ideas about free markets and limited government. A guy named Vernon Kriebel and the Kriebel Foundation spent a lot of money and a lot of effort to smuggle in copying machines into the Soviet Union and toner and all the things that go along with it, so this stuff could get propagated. And it was called Samizdat. The recordings were called Magnetizdat. So you guys at Real Clear have this Samizdat Award. When is it? Jonathan Turley's getting it. Good. That's awesome. Who else is getting an award?
It's Palm Beach. It's going to be at the big Palm Beach Hotel is the name escapes me right now, but it's posh. It's not Mar-a-Lago. It's down the road from Mar-a-Lago. But I tell you what, find out more about it. Come to the Real Clear Policy page, and it's right there.
Well, the Samizdat Awards. You can buy a table. You can
buy
be
a table?
sponsor if you want to be a sponsor.
Yes.
I know, Jerry. Are you going down to this, or are you going to?
You know me, I like to stay home, but I might make the trip. But here's the bottom line of this. Like many other outlets, we were Real Clear, was deemed by the progressives and by the entities that make these proclamations that we were a misinformation site, which is ironic because we literally give both sides of the argument. And somebody
put up a great picture today. Hold on, Jerry. Somebody put up a great picture today of the New York Times reacting to the fact checkers, saying fact checkers. So Zuckerberg says fact checkers were biased. Fact checkers say that this wasn't so, which is like a Babylon Bee headline, but it was a real headline that was out there.
But at the end of the day, Real Clear Politics is really one of the last places in the American public discourse where you will hear both Democrats, Republicans, progressives, and conservatives. It's shared real estate. And because we offered up some conservative points of view as well, we were deemed misinformation. It's sad that in America you have politicians coming after the press and labeling them misinformation.
I agree wholeheartedly. Jerry, as you said, the website is realclearpolicy.com. Real Clear Politics is part of that whole family. How do folks find out more about the good work that you personally are doing?
Well, real clear policy, real clear health. That's where you can find me and my big brain.
And at Jerry Rogers Show on Twitter and X. So go and
that's
check
right.
That out.
Thank you very much. The Federal Newswire, the Business of America, and of course, I host a Sunday show called the Jerry Rogers Show.
Hold on, Jerry. We got breaking news. Legislation has been filed to rename the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. Filed by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Gulf of America Act of 2025. Look for that in reconciliation.
And I was here for it. I was right here for it.
Take care, my friend.
God bless you. Thank you.
Bless you. That's Jerry Rogers, and he does radio. Go and follow him at Jerry Rogers Show on X. He's my best buddy. And I love Jerry's stories. And this is the one about Jack Kemp is good because it doesn't end in Jerry getting into a fight with people, which is invariably what happens in one of Jerry's stories. So we've got this Gulf of America Act. On the issue of Greenland and what's going on there. We have Representative Jim Hines. Eric Doherty also put this out earlier today. A little while ago. Let me play this. Jim Hines on CNN reacting to the Greenland issue.
Mexico is really, really important to us in stopping fentanyl, in helping us with the migration problems we have at the southern border. Canada is really important to us, another NATO ally. We should not be gratuitously pissing these people off. Again, where is the economic benefit for the people who voted for Donald Trump when he's off, telling tales of Greenland and renaming the Gulf of Mexico?
Well, the way he pitches it is, when it comes to Greenland, for example, it's for national security purposes. Is there any credence to that statement?
No, it's bananas.
It's not bananas. I mean, and that's just it. I mean, if you look at a map, here's the thing. I've talked about this issue of me being a Russian studies major, a Soviet studies major in college, and part of my studies, we had a really great program in geostrategic thought, and actually wrote my senior thesis paper on the geographic underpinnings of Soviet defense strategy. Listen, I don't claim to be some world-renowned expert on this. I don't claim that. I'm just saying that I have more than a passing interest in this. And I've loved maps since I was a kid. In fact, it was one of those things where, as the Bush administration was talking about the war in Iraq and the ongoing war in Iraq, I was telling them you should just bring out the map and show people what, U.S. control, what a new regime in Iraq means for geostrategic balances. If you look at a map, a closer relationship between the United States and Greenland has great strategic advantage. It just does, especially when you look at what China is doing. If you look at a global map and you look at what China is doing, the advantages that they have there. So no, it's not bananas at all. I mean, I don't know who this congressman is. I don't pay a lot of attention to run-of-the-mill Democratic congressman, so I don't know what Jim Hines' background is, whether or not he has any interest in this. But it's clearly not the case. I mean, I think this is along the lines of Democratic Congressman Hank Johnson asking somebody if Guam gets too populated, will the island tip over? But here,
it's insane. I mean, again, Denmark, which owns Greenland, I think that's probably a fact that most Americans are learning, is a NATO ally, right? No, so it's just complete madness from a national security standpoint, and it also is antagonizing, right? What if some leader in Canada or Mexico is elected and says, Mexico, we want California back?
Listen, you know something? I'll say it. If Mexico wants California back and California votes to go back to Mexico, adios. See you later, alligator. They can, sure, absolutely. If the people of California want to go and Mexico wants to take on California's debt and all of those problems, more power to them. That's great. That's fine by me. No more trains to nowhere that the U.S. government has to fund. That's fine. But nobody's antagonizing. And even the Danish prime minister, I didn't have the clip here. I can find it while we're in a break. She said that, that Greenland is for the Greenlanders. It's up to them to determine what they want to do here. It's just it, And as we talked about earlier with Adam Lovinger and others, You know, it's not as though the United States has not had major territorial acquisitions before. To say that it is bananas, that's just a knee-jerk reaction to the situation. Listen, more when we come back. We got Andrew Yang's warning to the people of Greenland about this. We're going to have, and Matt Gates' father, Don Gates, who's someone that I knew when I lived up in Northwest Florida, he has filed legislation as well. So we'll be checking about that. Message me on X at Andrew_Langer. This is Florida's Voice with Drew Steele. Afternoon.
You're listening to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. Being a veteran, it's interwoven into your DNA, is really the absence of the connection and the purpose that can really drive a lot of veterans to some negative thoughts. For those who are in a suicidal crisis, the window of time to save somebody's life is very short. Our duty is to protect ourselves and protect our families. And one way you can do that is store your weapons safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Hey, it's Drew Steele, and you probably know this. I've had a music career, an EMI published songwriter in the past. I've had a top 20 Billboard hit and movie soundtracks. But I got my start right here in Southwest Florida at Soundcheck Studios with Jim Becker. I worked with Jim when he was producing big names like Castrol and Beck's Beer and other commercial clients from ABC, NBC, CBS. He's done it all. It doesn't make a difference what your musical style is. If you're talking about recording for bands or producing music, jingles, he does it all at Soundcheck Studios. Recently, he worked with RCA artist Doja Cat and also a Sony artist Flipped Arrow. A lot of great artists have made their way through Soundcheck Studios. So if you want to make your brand memorable with a jingle or maybe a commercial you want to cut, or maybe it's a band, give Soundcheck Studios a call today. 239-340-0515. That's 239-340-0515 for Soundcheck Studios.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this. Just breathe." Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Radical anti-hunting forces are working to ban fishing and hunting across the country. These extreme attacks on our heritage must be met. Thankfully, the International Order of T. Roosevelt is fighting back as the nation's premier organization defending our rights to fish and hunt. This April, you can step into the arena with us and join our fight in Naples, Florida. Join us at the historic Ritz-Carlton Tiburon and hear from world-class speakers including Tucker Carlson. The annual event is the best place for conservationists, anglers, hunters, and all those who want to protect the outdoors to come together, build strategies to protect our rights, and expand opportunities in the future for generations to come. Visit IOTR.org to learn more about our organization and to sign up to see Tucker in April. Visit IOTR.org to learn more about our organization and to sign up to see Tucker in April. You don't want to miss this event.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. And in our family, we're used to getting involved, and I encourage you to do the same, especially when it comes to caring for your loved ones. When I think about Alzheimer's and the impact it had on my family, I recognize that losing a race isn't such a bad day after all. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
To some, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much, but that's not true. They're testing out vowels and consonants and trying different sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on meaning, especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Learn more at autismspeaks.org.
Hey, it's Drew Steele with a game-changing offer for those ready to master their retirement journey. Look, we're going to navigate unpredictable waters in 24, an election year marked by financial uncertainty. It's crucial. You've got to have expert guidance. That's where my good friend Alfie Townsend comes in. The Southwest Florida certified financial planner professional, Alfie brings unparalleled experience and insight to the table. His latest book, Making Waves in Retirement, it's not just a guide. It's your strategic compass for navigating the financial seas with confidence. Look, with decades of experience, Alfie has created a powerful roadmap. It'll help you chart your course and make meaningful waves in your retirement. And for a limited time, you can get your hands on this book free. That's right, no cost. The book is more than just a collection of stories. It's a blueprint for achieving a prosperous and fulfilling retirement. So don't miss out. Text book to 239-747-1080 right now. It's book to 239-747-1080 and claim your free copy today. Let's make 24 the year you confidently steer towards a brighter financial future. Text book to 239-747-1080.
Now, back to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Well, hey there, everybody. I am Andrew Langley for Drew today. We'll be back tomorrow in the studio with Derek and with Nina and getting, the feed from Eric Doherty with Florida's Voice with the breaking news that's there. He's got some really interesting stuff. By the way, I'm looking over to the side here. I got a message on Twitter from listener James. He writes, Greenland should not be purchased to become a state. It should be granted independence and then become the North Atlantic's Palau. Save money and avoid having a ridiculously unpopulated state. Right. I see what you're saying there, James. If we're going to leave Greenland to the Greenlanders, let them figure out what they want to do. And if they want to have a closer relationship with the United States, then they should. This piece that Eric said, by the way, sorry, let me move this over here. The breaking news, the father of Matt Gaetz. So this is Florida State Senator Don Gaetz. Now, mention this. I am going to wear my glasses because I got to read stuff while I'm here. I lived in Northwest Florida for a number of years. I was a lifeguard in the Gulf of Mexico one summer. It was a glorious job. But I lived in Don Gaetz's district, so I knew of the Gaetz family when Matt Gaetz got elected to Congress. So here, this just in, the father of Matt Gaetz, Florida State Senator Don Gaetz, has just filed legislation making it a third-degree felony to commit animal cruelty during a state of emergency. The charge is normally a misdemeanor. This comes after a dog was found tied to a pole before Hurricane Milton. Luckily, the guy was caught and charged. The dog trooper found a new family as well, and that makes me feel really good about that. This is important. He also wrote in, and unfortunately, we don't have audio of this, but Eric wrote that. Sorry, I'm trying to find this here. So I pull this up. That Andrew Yang, he had a statement a little while ago on just a little half hour ago. No, an hour ago. Andrew Yang, who briefly ran for president of the United States, Greenlanders should pay attention to how Trump treated Puerto Rico. Or Greenlanders should pay attention to how we treat Puerto Rico. Thank you. I appreciate that, Nina. Thank you very much for that. I don't know. Let them vote in U.S. elections and not pay taxes. I get the fact that they have this thing called self-governance and it doesn't go very well for them. But when you have a corrupt environment, it doesn't do well for any kind of real help that the U.S. wants. Here's my theory, by the way. One of my theories in all of this is that let's say that we do have a closer relationship, that the people of Greenland decide that they want to become a territory of the United States. They vote for this. That one of the deals that gets made is that, Greenland gets to become a state and Puerto Rico gets to become a state, and whatever province of Canada that wants to become a state becomes a state. I'm not saying that it would happen, but it certainly could happen. Now, I want to go here. Haven't spent a lot of time talking about gender policy. But Eric posted this just a little while ago. And this is fascinating to me. I guess a transgender person posted a video bragging about changing his gender on his Florida driver's license, something that's not allowed in Florida via a loophole. The state of Florida then sent him a letter, thanked him, and reverted his gender. This is in the category of F around and find out, which I think would be a great law firm. Now, I'm just going to say this, Derek and Nina, I haven't listened to this clip of this transgender person, so just be wary with the dump button if we need to.
Would be screaming right now if he knew about this. This little license now says female on it. It doesn't. I can't show you because then you would know way too much about me, but it says female. This was the last step in changing all of my documents. This was not easy. You're not even supposed to be able to do this in this state. Here's the loophole. Here's the loophole. Listen up. If you're replacing your driver's license, not renewing it, but replacing it because you lost it, they have to take all of your information from what they consider a primary document. A passport is considered a primary document, and you can self-identify on your passport, which means, loophole, you can self-identify on your Florida fucking driver's license.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. I hope you got that, guys. I knew I should have listened first. So, here's the problem. Is it my imagination, or are invariably these transgendered individuals, the ones who are, something, I'll say it both ways. Are they not parodies of the people, of the genders that they are claiming that they are trying to be? I mean, again, it's like the one who did the whole Bud Light thing, whose name now escapes me, who just at the end of the day was the worst kind of parody. It's like one of these things where I wish that I had Julie Gunlock on with me again, because this is something that she could go on about quite a bit. Here's the thing. I believe in empowering, well, first of all, I believe in empowering people generally. And I believe in a live and let live philosophy. I believe, if what you're doing, if your belief system doesn't interfere with my life generally, you should be able to go and do that. Now, when we're talking about kids, it's something else entirely. And when we're talking about how your behavior or decisions or value systems impacts my behavior or value systems, then we've got a problem. I have a very simple way of approaching these things, right? Which is the idea that just law is born out of the intersection of individual rights, right? Person A wants to wave their hands around in a wild interpretive dance. Well, that right is protected under your right to free expression, which is part and parcel of your right to free speech. Well, that right only extends insofar as to the point where the hand that's being waved around doesn't cross the bridge of my nose. Now, here is the problem with a lot of this transgender nonsense, is that it goes much further in all of this, right? The issues of identification for the purposes of security, why we have these things. We go down this road. Hey, well, let me read this letter. Oh, this is so funny. So I don't know when this person did their TikTok about this, but this is the letter from the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicle Department. Dear so-and-so, Please be advised that the sex identifier on the replacement Florida driver's license issued to you on December 20, 2024 was improperly changed from male to female. Accordingly, that license is invalid and has been canceled. This cancellation only applies to the physical credential issued on December 20th, 2024. You are still permitted to operate a motor vehicle. A valid replacement license with the proper sex identifier of male is provided herein. In compliance with Florida law, we have issued you a new unique driver's license number. As I explained in my letter to county tax collectors dated January 6, 2024, the department may issue a replacement driver's license only when a license is lost or stolen, or when there is a subsequent change in the licensee's name, address, or restrictions. Moreover, the term it goes on from there. Thank you for bringing this error to the department's attention. Your public comments will help ensure compliance with Florida law. Finally, this is where it really does get into the F around and find out portion of this. Finally, your public comments suggest that while you may have misrepresented your sex when applying for a replacement license, you may also have knowingly made a false statement about whether you truly lost your original license. Under Section 322.2125A Florida statutes, it is unlawful for any person to knowingly make a false statement, knowingly conceal a material fact, or otherwise commit a fraud in any application for a driver's license. Wow. You know, I mean, it really is amazing to me. Now, as I was going down this road, you know, you have these folks who are a caricature, and what it does, I believe in empowerment. This is where I was going with my soliloquy on this. I believe that people should be empowered to act on their own behalf. And I certainly believe in equality of opportunity for men and women, not equality of outcomes, because there's no way to guarantee those things. And I believe in strong and powerful women. I am married to a strong and powerful woman, a brilliant woman who served her nation in the nation's armed forces, is a physician, and has reached the highest levels of her profession. I'm enormously proud of her. I'm proud to be her husband. I'm raising two girls who are both strong and empowered women, and empowered to act on their own behalf. Can't talk about what my older daughter does. Younger daughter wants to be a doctor like her mom. And one of the things that bothers me are people like this person who is pretending to be a woman, who is trying to insert himself into spaces that are reserved for women by declaring himself to be a woman on his driver's license. This does not come without a cost to biological women. And I know you could talk about the Laken Riley issue, which is a separate thing having to do with crime and illegals, but we can also talk about Riley Gaines and the protection of women in sports. You know, so it's funny. One of those things, I don't know how many of you are fans of the Harry Potter books out there. I never read the books. I've seen the movies, and the later movies are better for all sorts of reasons. But J.K. Rowling, who was the creator of the Harry Potter series, came in for some criticism because she has been critical over the years of women trying to compete in men's sports. I'm sorry. Scratch that. Back that up. She has been critical of men who pretend to be women wanting to compete in women's sports. Sorry, you know, sometimes it's a quote to the movie Lincoln, I sometimes start down a road and I don't have enough room to stop. And she came in for criticism. See, one of the things that I wouldn't call myself a feminist in the traditional sense of the word, but I have a great deal of sympathy for the portion of feminism and the feminist movement that they called TERFs, trans exclusionary radical feminists, because they understand that men who are pretending to be women in order to invade spaces that are normally reserved to women, that's problematic. You know, things like Title IX, which, you know, we could debate the merits of Title IX and the Education Act and how that gets misapplied, what that has done, the unintended consequences of it. But at the very least, the privileges that are guaranteed under Title IX to women in higher education, whether it's sports or academics or otherwise, those should not be diluted or supplanted or hijacked by genetic men who have decided that they want to be women for whatever reason, whether or not they are under some kind of a delusion internally where they think that they are a woman, or because they recognize that they can dominate a particular environment because they are biologically not women. Again, I don't know this person who put this out there. What I do know is that the person who did this video is one of those kinds of transgender individuals who thinks that women are all nasally and all weak and all flouncy and are caricatures. In the same way, right? In the same way that you see caricatures of gay people from, you know, the 1960s and 70s, even going back into the 50s. You know, in media, certainly that began to change in the 80s, where there was some kind of a caricature of someone who was gay, whereas we all know that gay people can be anything. They're not all going to be sort of mincing, high-pitched, limp-wristed men. Or in contrast, you know, extremely masculine, you know, buzz-cutted women. We know that that's not the case, yet there are a host of folks who think that way. Listen, some final thoughts. I appreciate Eric bringing that up to all. Some final thoughts in a moment at @Andrew_Langer on Twitter. I'm Andrew Langer, and of course this is Voice.
You're listening to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Babes, what are you doing?
What? I'm just mowing the lawn.
No, it's blazing hot and dry out here. Don't you remember? Smokey Bear says.
Avoid using power equipment when it's windy or dry.
Where'd you learn this?
Oh, it's on
SmokeyBear.com with many other wildfire prevention tips.
Right. Thanks, Honey Bear.
Because remember, only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
All right, son. Time to put out this campfire.
Dad, we learned about this in school.
Oh, did you now? Okay. What's first?
Smokey Bear said to.
First drown it with a bucket of water, then stir it with a shovel.
Wow, you sound just like him.
Then he said.
If it's still warm, then do it again.
Where can I learn all this?
It's all on SmokeyBear.com with other wildfire prevention tips, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
I'll trust water bottles and a flashlight to save the day, but I'll be proved wrong.
With a tornado approaching, I'll realize that I like a wheelchair-accessible shelter.
When the floodwaters rise, I'll be up in the attic with 20 cans of beans. It's a recipe for disaster.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council. Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver. And we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. And in our family, we're used to getting involved, and I encourage you to do the same, especially when it comes to caring for your loved ones. When I think about Alzheimer's and the impact it had on my family, I recognize that losing a race isn't such a bad day after all. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months, and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today. We're with Liam after his 4th military move, when being new is starting to get old. We're with Tara during the holidays, when she misses home the most. We're with all service members and their families who need connection, comfort, and a home away from home. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
Now, back to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
Well, guys, it's been a thin slice of heaven sitting in with all of you on all of this to talk about these things. I mean, I'll tee up a little bit more of this in a moment, but as I've said, if you like what you've heard, well, if you like what you heard, obviously let Drew and his team know that you've enjoyed it. If you haven't, they'll let them know anyway. I mean, that's fine too. But you can also let me know. I'm open to all kinds of constructive criticism about the way I do shows, and every show is different. But you can find me online at Andrew_Langer is the best way to do it. Follow me on X, Twitter, whatever it is. But again, as I said, I'll go through all the other stuff that I do, because it's good here. Got this. Here, hold on. This is from Colin Rugg, just in. President Biden has been forced to cancel an event after the windstorm that is fueling the Palisades fire struck thermal California. Yeah, this is serious stuff. They're getting major winds out there, and it's wreaking havoc with all of this. Joe Biden, he's got 2 weeks left, less than 2 weeks left. Can you imagine? Do you ever think we'd be back in this position where we got just under 2 weeks left of the Biden administration? The late great Rush Limbaugh, he did a count up of the Clinton era. And obviously when we went into the chaos of the 2000 election, it made it difficult to sort of determine what was going to happen afterwards. But once we knew that George W. Bush was going to take the presidency, there was a sigh of relief, as we knew that the era of Bill Clinton was going to come to a close. Who knew that once Bill Clinton got out of office, that we would have to contend with the likes of Barack Obama and all of the nastiness that Barack Obama wrought? And who would have thunk that Joe Biden was going to be like the Obama administration on steroids? But yet there we are. We are now just under 2 weeks. It's funny. Had a meeting this morning talking about, what's going to happen and the agenda for the first 100 days. And a lot of this is reactive. As we're, some of it's proactive in terms of making recommendations, and then it's having to advocate to see the recommendations get implemented. But the real work begins, in the days right after. We've got a limited amount of time here, to make the changes that need to get made. And I say this in terms of the role that Congress is going to play in all this. It's, the first year, maybe the first 2 years, but really that first year of having, Republicans nominally in control of the House, in control of the Senate, in control of the White House. We know that there's going to be a reconciliation bill that's going to contain a lot of the fixes that we want. But then the real work happens with regards to the executive branch, which is my bailiwick. And if you missed it, as I talked about this yesterday in the beginning of the show, in addition to doing the media work that I do, I run the Center for Regulatory Freedom for the CPAC Foundation. And in CPAC, the umbrella organization, they put on the big conference in D.C. and the D.C. area every February. In fact, you're all cordially invited to come up to D.C. for CPAC. You know, you can find it, conservative.org is the website. You find that information. It starts on the 19th, goes through that weekend, the weekend of the 22nd. They have a big, couple of big dinners, lots of big events. Everybody's going to be there. The president's going to be there. The vice president's going to be there. Go and check that out. You can find out about all the work that I'm doing at Twitter.
You're listening to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.
It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the-right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the-right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way. My kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org.
You're listening to Florida's Voice with Drew Steele.